necessarily Trump the man.
Yeah, because he does.
And the voters are the same way.
Okay, so, yeah, and that's, me and Victor have this conversation every week here, is that, I look at the results over the rhetoric, and I think most people are going to say, yeah, this booming economy, and the press conference they did the other day, which showed that when Obama tried to take credit, they're like, no, we are seeing a completely different trajectory thanks to tax reform and the Dodd-Frank reform, and what a lot of people don't understand.
And growth that Obama said it would never happen.
Yeah,
never happened.
Like the manufacturing coming back, almost everything Obama said, the opposite has happened. And one of the things that I think we've missed a little bit is the profit increase. And banks don't make money just leaving it in their vault. They lend it out. And I think that historically, we're going to look back at that and say that was what drove the economy.
Well, there's something I think that everybody, a lot of people I think are missing. When you look at when Trump was elected, 95% of the media out there said he was stupid, dumb, incapable, and incompetent, you name it. And there, 8 years before that, we had 8 years of the smartest man in the world, the most debonair man in the world, the best orator in the world. So here we are. You advance to where we are now. So that guy that they've called a buffoon has done the exact opposite policy-wise as Obama, and you look at what's happened. You cannot deny more money in your wallet, and American people will vote for their by their wallet. And then you look back at Obama standing and saying that this kind of economy would never happen. We wouldn't have 4% growth. Obama said that. Obama said that we wouldn't have manufacturing. He stood and looked at blue-collar workers and told them, get used to it. Yep. You've got to get retrained. This stuff's not coming back. And he even said, what's Trump going to do? Wave a magic wand. Well, I'll tell you what Trump's going to do, and Trump showed him he's going to reverse his policies.
Yeah.
And I think that's a message that's being missed.
Yeah, we got David back on. So Trump is not as much of a headwind as maybe Obama was, especially in red states. David, would you agree with that?
I definitely agree with that.
Okay. So even though these special elections, we've seen them, the Democrats are all frenetic about, the most recent one was, I think, Pennsylvania, that was a 10-plus Trump win, and then the state senator there just barely hung on. Was that Pennsylvania recently that had one?
Pennsylvania had Ohio. Yes.
Ohio. It was Ohio where the guy won by like 1,500 votes, and then by slightly over the amount for the automatic recount.
It was also
we lost the Pennsylvania one, but the guy that won that, there's a military guy talking about economic. He's a moderate Democrat, so he was a different kind of candidate.
Connor Lamb is who you're thinking about.
Yep.
Yeah, Connor Lamb ran as an establishment Republican. He didn't run as a Democrat.
Well, and don't forget, all of these candidates say when they're running, they're not going to vote for Nancy Pelosi, but we'll see what happens when they have to.
Right. I think they will.
When they start getting their feet held to the fire. All right, David, thank you so much. I always love getting your opinions on this. We really got to dig into the Florida race. I mean, just having returned there from being there 8 days, I mean, it's neat seeing that state is in such a contentious mode right now that this really is looked at as a pickup, because I don't think Nelson had really been challenged lately. I mean,
he really hadn't. I mean, like I said, he's had nothing but weak challengers every time he's run.
And now he's up against successful Governor Rick Scott, who also has crisis management with the Irma last year. Really looked at as
and he's got an unlimited bank account.
Isn't that what consultants really like? But David Johnson, Strategic Vision. Thank you as always for calling in. We hope to see you soon, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
So we wanted to wrap up. We got Deanna Harris's website out.
Excellent.
And just wanted to wrap up a little bit, on 9/11. We always want to, honor it.
Absolutely.
But talk about it in a way where we really stress the ability to recover that the United States has shown. Because when they attacked us, I mean, their plan succeeded for a while, right? They grounded all commercial air traffic for more than 24 hours. The stock exchange was shut down for 4 days. Capitalism slogged to a halt. Football games, family reunions, school plays were canceled, along with thousands of events that weekend. And, it worked for 4 or 5 days. Right? They won, but they won the war. They won the battle, but they didn't win the war. And we have had profound challenges, right? The attack on Pearl Harbor, JFK assassination, the explosion of the Space Shuttle Challenger, which impacted me a lot. And then, obviously, September 11th. But despite the best efforts of the Islamic terrorists, the world learned that it's impossible to keep this resurgent nation down. We are the country of architects who invented the skyscraper, the adventurous nation that landed a man on the moon, the creative minds who invented rock and roll, TV dinners, and the mustache on a stick. Have you seen that? On a stick. We honor the fallen, and we celebrate the courage and undying spirit of those who continue to espouse American exceptionalism.
There is no spirit, and nothing can compare to an American, flat-out American citizen. Right. American ingenuity, and again, the American spirit. There is no country like the United States. There won't be another country like the United States, at least not in our lifetime. And you hit it on the head, Greg. There is no people in this world that can take us slacking like we took and go right back to it. I mean, we stood right back up, and we did it
quickly
together.
We recovered. Watching the Yankees games and the Giants games just a week and a half afterwards, and seeing those fans. And look, and the Boston Marathon bombing. 2 or 3 days after that, Boston did not shut down. So you hit us, and we're going to hit you back 10 times harder.
Absolutely.
And we're going to come.
Oh, right. And Kaepernick can kneel all he wants. But I will stand with the flag.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I will talk, we'll talk about that more in depth next week. But the actual Nike commercial, it's a conservative message.
If you take him out, it's a good commercial.
If you remove the polarizing character, and I got to say, I've been on a lot of shows where it's very heavily influenced by liberals, and there's a segment of people that look at Kaepernick as a modern day Jackie Robinson, and so I think we're just going to have to say, look, he's going to be revered by a segment of the population. Let's fight another battle. We can't act as the snowflakes. I think we've certainly overdone that, but the actual Nike commercial is pretty damn awesome. It's like, don't let any setbacks hold you back. Don't make excuses. Be the best. Be the champion. If you don't have a hand, still play football. I found it fairly inspiring.
Oh, there's no doubt. If you took Kaepernick off of that, the rest of that commercial was amazing. I just tell people, if you really, just take him off. Picture Pat Tillman in that spot. Yeah, and that's an awesome commercial.
And that would be a hell of a substitution right there. Well, anyway, guys, thank you all for listening. We enjoyed having our guests on today, David Johnson. We hope you found the show enlightening. I know I learned a lot.
We hope you found it as entertaining as we did.
We amuse ourselves.
Yes, we do.
So we'll see you next week on Greg's List with Victor Armendariz.
You really can't appreciate what someone has gone through until you walk a mile in their shoes. That is why we're bringing the first annual Walk a Mile in Her Shoes to Atlanta. We are literally asking men to walk a mile in high-heel shoes to express empathy for women who have been victims of sexual assault. Are you man enough? If so, join us Saturday, September 22nd at historic 4th Ward Park. For more information, go to AtlantaWalkAMileInHerShoes.everydayhero.do.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Your auto love and investment demands the best, and for 45 years, Passport Transport has been meeting those demands. From manufacturers to the one-car collectors and all other facets of the auto industry and antique auto hobby. The first and the finest with unequaled service and peace of mind. Passport Transport, your auto transportation company. Contact PassportTransport.com with your need today. Passport Transport.
The disease of addiction is a life-altering challenge, not just for the person suffering its effects, but also for the family and friends who support and love the one caught in its grasp. What should be the course of treatment? Who is the best person to render treatment? And what is the best place to go for the care that is needed? We know that you want answers to these and many more questions. Call 770-696-9862 and speak to a representative of the Atlanta Healing Center. They can tailor a program specifically designed to address the needs of the person suffering with an addiction, or give you guidance as to where that help may be found. Information is the key. and the trained staff at AACA is here to assist. If you wish, you can also get more information on the website located at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
For them, a supplemental policy from AFLAC is a little known but effective strategy.
They can't draw for...
Thank you for listening.
The best place to get your new talk radio. I want to start out today, and by the way, this is Victor. I will be your host today. And I want to start out today with, I'm sure everybody knows, tomorrow is Independence Day. And a lot of people know it as the 4th of July, but it is Independence Day. That's we are celebrating the independence of this great nation, not just the fact that it's the 4th. And as we look back on what does this day really mean, and I would love for listeners out there to take a minute between today, tomorrow, the next day, on what it means, the 4th of July. What does the Independence Day? What did this country fight for? And then think, where are we headed? When you see everything going on today and the vitriol that's coming out of the left, where are we headed? Are we a nation that's free? Are we on a quest for ever-ending liberty? Do we want to fight and protect the freedoms that we have? These are real questions that we really need to ask ourselves today. And if you don't agree with me, then pay attention to some of the things you hear on the news. And for those of you out there who might be left of the dial, step back from your emotions for a moment and listen to the vitriol that's coming out of your side. And I am saying your side right now, and I know the first response that I get is, oh, both sides do it. Well, both sides maybe do it to a degree, but not to the degree that we are seeing from the left. You just take an example, and what we're going to get into in a little bit is the Supreme Court vacancy. Look at the reaction. We don't even have a nominee yet. President Trump hasn't named a nominee yet. But if you listen to the left, they are demonizing everyone that they think is on his list. How can you do that when you don't even know the person yet? So that's something right there to think about. And then listen to their reaction to the things that are going on today and look at the things they focus on. And again, I ask you to step back and take your emotions back. Because if you look at what's going on in this country, with the economy is on fire, unemployment rate is so low statistically, we're at full employment. Record number of people are coming off of food stamps. That means there is a record number of people coming off of dependency to the federal government. How is this a bad thing? So that's why I ask you to take the emotions away. You can disagree with the president or the leadership, but results are where you should make your decision. So I get back to tomorrow, Independence Day. I just want to read a quote real quick. This is from John Adams. The second day of July, 1776, and this is what he wrote on July 2nd, 1776. The second day of July, 1776, will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America. I am apt to believe that it will be celebrated by succeeding generations as the great anniversary festival. It ought to be commemorated as the day of deliverance by solemn acts of devotion to God Almighty. It ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, with shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations, from one end of this continent to the other, from this time forward more. Now just listen to that. That was in 1776, on July 2nd, 2 days before the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Note back then, and the reason why I read this is this example. If you listen to that quote, he mentions God, he mentions guns, he mentions celebration, all in the name of the freedom of this country. And this is a reason why the liberals want to change history. They want to control education so they can take these kinds of quotes out of history. Because you cannot deny in the founding of this country the belief where the Second Amendment comes from and where the First Amendment comes from.
And just because he mentions God Almighty, it doesn't mean that there's no separation of church and state. And I urge you just read the Founding Fathers, and you'll see the true meaning of that. So it was just an amazing way, the way this country was founded. And I just want you guys to reflect. You know, we get caught up in maybe some fireworks, picnics, beer, pool parties, and things of that nature, which are all great. But just remember what you're celebrating. There is no nation on the planet that has done in the fewer years than what we've done as a country. There's no system of government that has lasted as long as the system we have. And there's a reason for that. And right now, you just look at the election last week where the young lady in New York, who we'll talk about in a little bit, who ran on a socialist platform, and she beat an entrenched Democrat on the Democrat primary. She basically came out of nowhere. She didn't have a whole lot of money. She didn't have a whole lot of backing. And what got her over the top was her socialist platform. This ought to be a wake-up call to everyone. Because, again, I ask you, what kind of country is America going to be going forward as you celebrate tomorrow? So we're going to get into that in just a little bit. I'm going to have Mark the Shark. He's going to call in. He's our lawyer segment. And he's going to get into a little bit about the Supreme Court. We're going to talk about the Supreme Court vacancy that's come up. And we'll also get into some of the Supreme Court decisions that came down last week. We're going to get into that, and then later on, we're going to have Annette Davis, who's going to call in. She is a candidate for State House here in Georgia. So we'll get to those things later. So as we wait for Mark to call in, I want to talk to you a little bit more about the history of the country. Someone else that you should take a look at if you get a chance, Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine wrote a great little book called The Common Sense. It was published in 1776. That is just listen and read those words. As Thomas Paine came over from England and was a champion for the founding of this country. He was a champion for our independence. And this is something that every student in school should be taught. Every history class from primary to high school to college should be teaching this kind of history. And I'm afraid that they're not. I have a couple of nephews that are in high school, and when I hear and they show me what they've been learning, the absence of American history is astounding. I can ask them, well, have you learned about the Founding Fathers? Have you even heard of Thomas Paine? Have you heard of John Hancock? Have you heard of Alexander Hamilton? Have you heard of George Washington? And you'd be amazed. I know some of you are out there laughing, going, what do you mean? Of course I've heard of that. You would be amazed. Because there is a movement to, let's just say, rewrite history or just conveniently forget part of history. But a great way to start, if you do have kids out there, is read Common Sense to them. Let them see what some of these founding fathers wrote and what they said. When Paine wrote this, he had only recently arrived to the colonies from England, and he came here and he argued in favor of colonial independence. He advocated republicanism, which, republicanism was the form of government that they believed in forming, as opposed to a monarchy or totalitarianism and that type of government. And he was against the hereditary rules. And if you just go through, you'll see that in Common Sense, he made a persuasive and impassionate case for independence, one which had not yet been given serious intellectual consideration in the American colonies. There were a lot of the public back then in the American colonies that wanted to work it out with King George. They wanted to make peace and make it work. But luckily, there was enough of them that stood up and said, no, that's not going to work. We need our independence. So have to, going forward, have to understand that, as Ronald Reagan said, freedom is a generation away. We're a generation away from losing it. And that's not an exact quote, but Ronald Reagan basically said, if we do not teach our kids, if we do not learn history and teach history, every generation is at risk at losing freedom. And I will tell you now, if the Democrats are surprised at the socialist young lady who won in New York, they shouldn't be. They have been trying to radicalize education for years. So now the generations, let's use the chickens will come home to roost, something that Obama's friend liked to use, his pastor, Reverend Wright. He liked to talk about the chickens coming home to roost. Well, I'll tell you, Democrats, your years and years of controlling the education and radicalizing kids in these schools, it's coming home to roost. Where do you think that this young lady in New York got her socialistic views? I mean, it wasn't overnight. So I believe we have Mark coming on the line. So let's go ahead and take it to Mark. How you doing today? Oh, good, good. So, Mark, talk to me about this Supreme Court vacancy. How do you see what's going on in the reaction that the left is giving?
Well, I can tell you one thing is, first off, I think Chuck Schumer and the rest of these people need to kind of take a look at their issues and address. You know, it's difficult sometimes when you talk out of both sides of your mouth. And a lot of times when you're sleeping and you don't know what you're doing, as some of the Democrats are doing right now, they're kind of, if you don't have a platform, I guess, you know, the old saying is, if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, you can pile on the manure. And that's sort of become the platform of the Democrats currently. And I'll tell you why. You know, first off, Trump is entitled, as every other president has before him, to pick a Supreme Court when the Supreme Court has a vacancy. Okay? And I think a lot of people what got lost in the sauce here is Kennedy didn't decide to retire because he decided today was the day, July 31st, he was going to retire. He felt apparently enough confidence in Trump to pick a Supreme Court justice that would be right for this country. I mean, Kennedy was known a little bit about the swing kind of vote, but here's the difference. Is every president has that ability, but the ability is not the government ability, and this is where it gets lost here. It's the people's ability. Who did we put in power? Who did the people of the United States put in power? We didn't put the talking heads of CNN and CBS and ABC and MSNBC. They're not the people in power. The American people elected the president, they elected the Congress, and they elected the Senate.
Oh, Mark, I mean, you've hit that out of the park. Let's see. Back in 2008, shortly after Obama won, one of the first things he said to John McCain's face and the rest of the Republicans in the meeting was, elections have consequences. Well, I'll tell you right now, and to all the liberals out there, elections have consequences. And yes, the American people, they set the direction of this country, and they did it with a very loud tone. Now, Mark, can you hang on a second? We're going to go to break. I want to come back to Mark. We're going to get back into this. But think about that as we go to break, ladies and gentlemen. The people of this country, there is a reason we have the wonderful election system that we have. See you on the other side.
45 years of experience is behind the most trusted name in auto transportation. Passport Transport, the first and finest today. That's why Passport Transport is the preferred auto transport for major auto manufacturers, concours, museums, tours, and collectors, and should be your choice from across the state to across the country. When you have the need, go to PassportTransport.com and enjoy the peace of mind referenced experience will give you. Passport Transport.
This is Lawyer Liz. Join me each week as we discuss drones, the Internet of Things, and all the technology in between. It's Buzz Off with Lawyer Liz, Wednesdays at 2.
Perhaps you are struggling to cope with the disease of addiction. If not, you probably know a family member or friend that needs help in battling the cravings and the personal and professional damage done by the effects of drugs or alcohol. Get a pen and paper and be ready to write down the following. These are the issues that the trained staff at the Atlanta Healing Center address and treat every day. Their doctors and counselors with over 40 years of practice in the field of addiction can treat the suffering individual in a thoughtful, compassionate, and experienced manner and guide him or her along the path to recovery. So call 770-696-9862 and speak to a knowledgeable staff member about how you or your loved one can be helped to enjoy a better and healthier life. More information is also available on the website at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
Cook Immigration Partners is your passport through the immigration maze. Whether it's help with E-Verify in your business, or help in how to document a new employee under the new I-9 rules, or if you marry a foreign national, Cook Immigration Partners is your best choice for a legal advocate. Call us today at 866-286-6200. That's 866-286-6200, or visit us on the web at www.immigration.net.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And we're back here on America's Web Radio. Thanks so much for tuning in. You're going to hear common sense here, ladies and gentlemen, and you're going to hear it like it is. I do not hold back. This is one Mexican descent American that does not hold back. And I can prove that with my guest, Mark the Shark. So, Mark, let's get back into that. So, it is the American people that are really, truly behind the choice that Trump will make, because we as the American people, or at least the majority of them, put Trump in office.
So that's what gets lost here. And, you know, I am pretty confident that Kennedy had some discussions with Trump or with the administration beforehand. He just didn't willy-nilly decide, you know what, today is the day I'm going to retire. I think in a lot of ways he probably considered, you know, Trump's prior pick of Neil Gorsuch. And he's turned out to be a phenomenal justice so far. He really has.
He really, really has. And there was a rumor that I read that Justice Kennedy had told one of his staffers that the more comfortable I get, you know, I'm not gonna have this word for word, but basically he said his comfort with Trump gives him the comfort to retire. So I think you are spot on, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, remember something. Gorsuch also, you know, he was a Columbia University graduate. He went to Harvard Law School. He went to Oxford University. And he also clerked for Justice Byron White and also clerked for Kennedy. So, you know, Kennedy knew him beforehand.
Exactly.
And knew of him beforehand. So, you know, if there's somebody who's clerking for you and you get a comfortability factor, that's my favorite word, it doesn't exist. But there's a factor that you're comfortable with this person now. You understand how this person can think. And this person is writing for Kennedy and with Kennedy. That, and then his decisions now, and I think he's written 5 of majority opinions so far since he's been on. I mean, Trump, believe it or not, Trump's only been in office 75 weeks. You know, so you're looking at some amazing accomplishments so far. But getting back to where the Supreme Court stands, you know, listen, the Democrats, the liberals are going insane if they haven't already been there. It's a short drive, but they're there. Okay? They have come to the point where they're going to try, and specifically it's all over the place now, and it's becoming sort of a rash, like you walk through a poison oak field. They are going to try to make this a one-issue Supreme Court. Now, unfortunately, that's not the reality. You know, I think in 1973, Roe v. Wade was issued. And for those of you who are interested, I think it's at 410 U.S. 113 is the site. That was a 7-2 ruling. And what a lot of people don't understand is it came out of the right of privacy, which was a due process clause of the 14th Amendment, which extended to abortion, the right then tied to the abortion right. And that at the time, although if you really look at the decision, a lot of legal scholars tend to look at that decision and say it was a horribly written decision, but it sort of got to the point where we were at that point in time. Now, whether you agree with it, whether you're pro-life or not, or whether you're pro-abortion. It really doesn't matter because the Supreme Court is not a one-issue court. And the fact is that the court doesn't take up on its own any kind of case. There's a long list, a litany of procedures and courts that it has to go through. And the court can always say, you know what, we're not interested in this.
Well, you're right. And what I would love for people to remember is, and somebody needs to re-educate the Democrats, although the ones in power, they know this very well. The Supreme Court is not there to make law. The Supreme Court is...
You were just going to the key that I wanted to bring up. Right. The founding fathers of this country, as we approach July 4th, were brilliant in their construction of the Constitution. They then recognized that there were individual rights that they may have not overlooked so much, but may not have put as much emphasis on. So what they then did is they placed amendments, which would guarantee the rights. So it's the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment right to guys like me.
And that nature. And real quick, Mark. And those amendments and that Constitution is there to protecting and make and stone the rights of the people, not the rights of the government.
That's back to our original phrase, which is the government does not derive their power to the people. The people derive their power, and then they pass it on to the government. It doesn't go the other way. It's a one-way street. Although lately it hasn't been, and that's why Rome fell, because the Senate and everyone else on the hierarchy thought that they were the power. And we forget who we are. A lot of times, remember what that Constitution starts with? Very, very interesting phrase. We the people. It doesn't start with we the government.
Exactly.
Okay, so when you look at things like this and you say there were three branches of government: the executive, which enforces the law, which the president is part of.
Which, side note,
weaponize certain things.
Side note, is head of the DOJ and can fire Mueller if he wants to. But go ahead, Mark.
Yep. He can also order them to turn over the proper documents to oversight committees.
Right.
But again, staying above the fray, right? The legislature, which has enacted the laws, they are voted in by the people. They create the laws. And the reason that they created the third branch, not the first branch, the second branch, but the third branch is the judicial. They didn't create that first.
Right.
They created that last. Because what they wanted them to do is to strictly interpret the laws and the enforcement of those laws by the other two branches. Not to become activists, not to become legislators. Okay, when we give the judicial branch, which has been happening a lot in the Ninth Circuit in California, and now in Hawaii, which just got booted in the immigration, the facets that the judicial is supposed to look at is this consistent with the principles of our Constitution,
of our founding,
amendments to the Constitution.
Absolutely. And if anyone has a doubt with what Mark is saying, I urge you, go read the dissent from Kagan, from Justice Kagan. If you don't see activism in her dissent, then I don't know what activism is. And I assure you, I know what activism is.
Yeah, you have judges who believe that they can legislate from the bench. And that, unfortunately, is a really dangerous place to be because they're not voted in by the people. There's the difference in the judiciary. They're appointments. Okay? And we trust sometimes that the appointments will do what we think they're going to do. But that's not always been the case.
Right.
You know, some of the judges who have been appointed to the Supreme Court have not been so conservative as we thought. You know, I believe that the initial conception of Kennedy was going to be he was a strict conservative.
Well, remember, Kennedy was nominated because they destroyed Bjork.
Right.
Justice Bjork, who,
second choice wasn't so bad.
Right. No, this is true. But right. They destroyed him, and they're going to try to do that with whoever's nominated now.
Right. Well, they haven't even nominated anybody. I mean, we can go over the short list, what it appears to be, but I can tell you, my gut tells me he may be looking at some other out of the blue. And it's going to be very interesting, because he's had two women on his short list. Amy Coney Barrett, and it's Joan Larson. She's from the Sixth Circuit, Larson, and I think Barrett is from the Seventh Circuit.
You know, Mark,
Barrett,
I'm going to point something out real quick. You mentioned Amy. And all day today, if you listen to the news, CNN, MSNBC, and the rest of the mainstream, they are pointing out the way Amy looks. Now, I didn't think liberals were supposed to do that.
Well, you see, it's a one-way street. We all know that. I mean, we can pretend it's a two-way street, but I'll give you the same example, going off course for a second with Sarah Sanders Huckabee. She's thrown out of the Red Hen in Lexington, Virginia, and everybody's okay with that on the liberal side. Mm-hmm. Now, had they thrown out a Muslim, or had they thrown out someone of color, or an Indian person, or anyone else that wasn't a white person, who wasn't associated with the Trump organization or the Trump administration who changed that, is they would have been jumping up and down boycotting the restaurant.
Now, Mark, can you imagine if anyone in Trump, the Obama administration, had been heckled until they just couldn't eat in peace anymore? Could you imagine a Republican Senate or Congresswoman or Congressman advocating that if you see him in a gas station, if you see him in a grocery store, if you see him in a bank, that you create a mob? This is what I would see happening. Honestly, I'd see them hauled away in handcuffs by the Secret Service for threats against the administration. No doubt.
But that, unfortunately, because we still have that deep state political connection, the PC people. Okay, and if anyone's unfamiliar with that, they can listen to some of the hearings lately, that it still exists. And law enforcement doesn't want to look at this and say, you know what, this isn't going to happen. Now, here's what's going to happen, I'll tell you right now, is because the left is full of lunacy currently. They have gone so far left, and they've gone almost to the militant status. You're going to have some kind of violent episode. And then people are going to look at this and say, oh, we should have done something before. Well, this is the before. This is the now.
Exactly. This is the now. And I'm afraid you're right, Mark. We only need to go back a couple of years when Scalise, Congressman who was shot for playing Scalise at the baseball field. And that was an activist that was listened to all the rhetoric on the left, and he went and shot, and he would have shot more had it not been for those amazing two guards who put an end to it.
Who returned fire even after being wounded.
Even after being wounded. And then if you go forward to today, just like you said, what's happening is just a really kind of a fringe radicalization on the left that is happening when they're calling for violence. And some of you out there may going, oh, Victor, they're not calling for violence. No, listen to Maxine Waters. This is straight out of the Rules for Radical by Saul Alinsky. It's straight out of Mein Kampf, if you want to read into some of those crazy things.
If you listen to some of the Democrats who are kind of centrists, they're kind of backpedaling slightly, but they're trying to
they're getting scared.
The moonwalk, where you don't see them moving backwards.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
They're doing the Michael Jackson impression, where they're moving backwards, but you think they're moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So that is going to come back to haunt them, and I'll tell you why. Because America as a whole doesn't want to see the radical position of these people. It's fun for a while to talk about Maxine Waters, but she is somebody who is a disruptor, not in a good sense. Mm-hmm. Not like President Trump. He went in to clean up the mess. She's trying to create chaos, and the reason they try to create chaos right now is they have no platform. I mean, and earlier you mentioned the socialist who won, okay, in the 14th district in New York, a bluer than blue state, okay, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, okay, she's 28 years old. She beat a 10-term Joe Crowley, Democrat, right? Yep. The other thing is what's kind of interesting, and not to disparage anyone's intellect, but you know what? People need to start researching things and start.
Oh, no doubt. Mark, I'm going to hold you right there. We're going to go to the bottom of the hour break. I'm going to bring you back for a closing statement. There's so much, we could just have a whole show on this, so we're definitely going to have you back. But hang on for a closing statement.
Sure.
And we will be right back after this break.
Do you have problems with sinus pain and pressure? Do other people smell things that you don't? Have you lost the joy in eating because food just doesn't taste like it used to? Is your nose always stuffy no matter what you do? Maybe you have sinus or nasal polyps. These are generally benign growths that occur from chronic sinus infection or allergies that are either undertreated or have not been treated at all. At Peachtree ENT Center, we specialize in minimally invasive balloon dilation sinus surgery and correction of a deviated nasal septum and turbinate reduction surgery that can be done in the office. We use a state-of-the-art equipment so that you can see the problem. You will be a partner in your care, and together we will decide the course of treatment. We believe in old-fashioned medicine, where we take the time to fix the problem, not just medicate the symptoms. You can rest assured that all options will be offered before surgery is recommended, because Peachtree ENT Center is where patient care counts.
This is Lawyer Liz. Join me each week as we discuss drones, the Internet of Things, and all the technology in between. It's Buzz Off with Lawyer Liz, Wednesdays at 2.
This is Dr. George. Join me Wednesday mornings at 9 o'clock for Medicine on Call. Learn strategies to protect you and your family in the age of Obamacare. Affordable health insurance was the promise of Obamacare, but for many, the government mandate caused more problems than it solved. This is Dr. Elena George from Medicine on Call, and I want to tell you about a truly affordable alternative allowed under Obamacare, Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare bypasses doctor and hospital panels, giving you the freedom to choose. And with a maximum of $500 out of pocket per person and 100% coverage up to $1 million per year per occurrence, you can rest assured knowing you and your family are protected. Coverage starts as low as $107 per month and also includes dental, vision, pharmacy, and holistic care. Liberty HealthShare puts you back in charge of your health. Visit them online at libertyoncall.org. Again, for a true affordable alternative to Obamacare, visit libertyoncall.org or call toll-free 1-800-714-6993 today.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And we're back, America's Web Radio, where common sense will prevail. Mark, give me a quick, I'm going to have you back for sure, because we didn't even get into the decisions that I wanted to get into. But just give me a quick close on what you thought about the union decision.
Oh, God, the Jansen decision. That was beautiful. That decision sort of put an end to the lunacy of joining an organization that you didn't join and having to pay a fee because unions have gotten too out of control with respect to their political views. Unions were supposed to be non-political collective bargaining units. They were not meant as a political arm of the Democratic Party, which they've become. And most certainly, I think when you look at the decision itself, it basically comes to the fact that, listen, you're not the collective bargaining unit if you're going off and doing everything else that you're not supposed to be doing. The states, when the original came down to this, it was called the agency fee. That agency fee was supposed to be for their collective bargaining, not for their political views to be espoused across the country and to dump millions of dollars that people pay into it who are not members into furthering the Democratic National Party. That's not the purpose. So the court in their June 27th decision basically said, no. When you set up this principle of collective bargaining, you were not a political arm. Now you've become a political arm. So it sort of pulled back from their original, the fears of conflict. If employees were to make their own decisions on collective bargaining, would that be a disruption? Not really. They're contrary to the federal government. There are 28 states with laws prohibiting what they call the agency fees.
Right. Well, I mean, that's spot on. And Mark, we're going to have you back. We'll get into more of those things. And I want to also
leave you with one statement.
Yeah.
Thinking that Trump picks one of the two ladies, one of the two justices, either Joan Larson or Amy Coney Barrett. Very too well qualified. I mean, his list of 6 right now and 7 is phenomenal. But if he picks a woman to put on that court, I think he's doing himself a big service. But again, like I said, he's got to make the decision. He has more information than we have.
Well, Mark, I want people to pay attention. If he does choose a woman, watch the left try and destroy her. So, Mark, it was awesome to have you. We'll have you back.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Everybody have a great, safe, and happy 4th of July. And remember, like Vic said, why are you doing this? It's a holiday, but remember why.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Well, that was Mark, everyone, and I'll tell you, he has a great insight, and I love talking to him, and he's up in the middle of it all up in New York, and we'll definitely have him back. So we're going to move on here in just a few seconds. We're going to bring in Annette Davis-Jackson, and ladies and gentlemen, Annette I've had the joy of getting to know her, and she's running for House here in Georgia, and what a fantastic lady. I think when you guys hear her, you're going to get energized. You're gonna love it. So let's bring her on. Annette, how are you doing today?
Hey, Victor. Hi.
I am so happy that you could join us today. So, Annette, before we get into any kind of nuts and bolts, you, like me, you're a minority. And I cannot specify enough what this country means to me. I get tears in my eyes every time I hear the national anthem. I get tears in my eyes when I hear God Bless America. I cannot speak to the wonders of this country. And immigration, we'll touch on that in a little bit. Were it not for the wonders of this country to allow my father to come here on a student visa, I wouldn't be here. And so you, as a minority, tell me what the 4th of July means to you. Tell me, as a black woman, what does the freedom and liberty of this country, what does it mean to you?
You know what? I'm so glad that you would ask that question, because my father just passed, and yesterday we had his services. And my daughter, who's 18, who just graduated from Parkview High School in Lilburn, Georgia.
Wow.
She sung the national anthem at my father's funeral. Oh. And when I tell you, she had the fervor like I've never seen her sing it ever before, and she started singing the national anthem professionally when she was 8 years old on the floor of Phillips Arena in Atlanta. When I tell you that the umpires and the WNBA and everybody who was there just stood at attention, who was also there was Dr. Julius Erving, Dr. J, who created precedents. He called me and said, Annette, can I still come to this game? He was there. Dwight Howard was there. So, of basketball. And, of course, I was then at the chairman of the board of Women in Golf Foundation, and we brought over 100 people to that game to merge golf and basketball, of what that meant to the art of the deal for America. And then also with my daughter at 8 years old singing the national anthem. So, Victor, I'm with you to the great precepts, the great foundations of this country, which are absolute, which we have to hold true. And I distributed that to my daughter, who is a professional national anthem singer, who sang for her grandfather. And she sang, and someone told me, a good friend of mine who I went to high school with, he said, when I heard her voice, it was like the angels were singing. So today, I would say the angels are singing for America and everyone, every single citizen, to become involved in the area of which the 4th of July, our independence, stands on. We stand on the shoulders of someone before us. If they didn't create the freedom for this country, where would we be?
Oh, Annette,
know where we would be.
You are spot on. And just today, just this morning, when I was watching some of the news, I saw a reporter go out to a college, and they went up to some students, and a simple question: are you proud of America? Are you proud of the United States? And Annette, it broke my heart to hear these students, all of them, that they went up to, oh no, America sucks, or America this, or America that, and they started with so much negativity. And then I'm thinking to myself, what a bunch of heads full of mush, because they have no idea. Think about what the people before us, and that, think of what your ancestors from way back, what they had to do, and the freedom that they put forth, and the fight that they made, so that we can stand here today, so those little college safe zone seeking students and cry closet seeking students can say the stuff that they're saying.
Amen. Amen. Our foundations are sure. When you look at the founding fathers, Victor, you're talking about, nobody coined them with a PhD. Nobody coined them with a master's degree. Nobody coined them with a BA or BS, right? They were prolific men who were writers. They were writers. They had the greatest common sense known to man, right? To produce a constitution that would last in perpetuity.
And
the decisions that we make have to be decisions in perpetuity for future generations. So on this day before, the 4th of July, everybody has to understand that their independence did not come from their own self. It didn't come because they have a good job. It came because men and women sacrificed their obedience. It came because of the military around the United States guarding our borders, protecting. And not only importantly, it became because missionaries, of the gospel, they went to other countries, spreading not only the good news, but they spread it, what it means to have a great democracy, which the democracy, as the United States runs as a republic. So we have the democracy, which is we the people. America went out and sent missionaries before, and then after the missionaries, then the military settled everything. We have embassies all around. Why do we have embassies all around? Is because the United States is a world reserve currency. We print money. We are the sovereign nation. I pray today that people understand we're a sovereign nation, and we will not let anyone take away that sovereign identity, right? Kingdoms have fallen according to historical presence. America will not fall because we choose God as our source. That's why people are fleeing here, because they have an opportunity. Well, opportunities exist.
Absolutely, and you're so right. Reagan. I love Reagan is one of my idols, and I love going back to some of his speeches. And there was a great speech by Reagan where he acknowledges, hey, the world may have bombs, but they don't have the spirit of America. They don't have the ingenuity of Americans. They don't have the internal love for peace and freedom and liberty that Americans have. There is a reason that we stand strong and have the longest lasting form of government than any other. Socialism doesn't last, fails every time it's tried. Communism doesn't last, fails every time it's tried. There's a reason that when you are a republic like we are, and the brilliance of the founding fathers who put forth freedom and liberty first, they put people first. It is amazing to me, and I hear, and that people, I'm sure, come up to you because you and I have done speeches and functions together where people have come up to us who are minorities, and they're married to the letter D, and they look at you and I like we're crazy.
Yes.
And I'm amazed by that, and I try and tell them, look, I will never, ever be a resident on that Hispanic plantation that the Democrats are trying to create today. And that may sound inflammatory to some people, but again, this is the common sense radio. I don't hold back. And the Democrats are trying to put together a Hispanic plantation, just as they did, Annette, with so many voters of color. And they take advantage. And so speak to us a little bit, Annette, about what it's like to be black and to have to deal with some of the things you deal with as a black woman, because you're not afraid to go out and speak about freedom. You're not afraid to speak about not so much a Republican cause, but a conservative cause. And so gather some thoughts together, because we're about to go to a break. So I want you to hold on, and on the other side of this break, I want you to go into some detail about what you're up against when you're out there and people are so married to the letter D. They're so married to the thought of that it has to be liberalism. So we're coming back at the other side of the break, and we'll be back with Annette. Thank you.
Hey, let's
Immigration Partners is your passport through the immigration maze. Whether it's help with E-Verify in your business, or help in how to document a new employee under the new I-9 rules, or if you marry a foreign national, Brook Immigration Partners is your best choice for a legal advocate. Call us today at 866-286-6200. That's 866-286-6200. Or visit us on the web at www.immigration.net.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Karuchak. Have you ever wondered what doctors talk about amongst themselves? If you do, join us on the Doctor's Lounge and hear the doctors' conversations amongst themselves. Join me and my co-host, Dr. Hal Schertz, every Thursday morning, 8 to 9 a.m.
Whether cruising the Strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the americasbroadcastnetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And we are back, America's Web Radio. Some of the best radio you're going to listen to, folks. So trust me, and I'm not just saying that because it's me. I'm saying that because I got great guests like Annette Davis. Okay, Annette, talk to me about what you're up against. You know, as you go out there as a black woman and you're trying to convince other black people that it's okay. You can vote for freedom and liberty because the Democrats aren't their party anymore. The Democrats, as my father would say, they left him.
Yes.
So tell me, talk to me, Annette.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I get a lot of daggers thrown at me when we even enter into the conversation. I have friendships who I get the dagger of, and I said, you know what? I said, I'm listening to you guys, and I've never asked you, why are you a Democrat? But you always ask me why I'm a Republican. And I have to go back, and my dad's soul, rest in peace, but he was a Republican. He was a businessman. He owned his own real estate brokerage in California. The only reason that he did not go to the draft is because he was married and he had 2 children. But he was a community stalwart. Some neighbors said to me, who are now vice presidents of banks, and one of them is in Beverly Hills, he said, you know what? Your dad was a surrogate father. I will say to the Democratic Party that your surrogate mother and your surrogate father has failed you.
Oh, wholeheartedly.
I mean, they failed you because when we vote for anyone and we think that they're going to give us economic development, we think that they're going to have better schools, we think that they're going to protect our seniors, right? And the list goes on to the protections that you facilitate by law. What we find out is that there are ones who've been in office 20 or more years, 10 or more years, and you look at your districts and you say, wait, what happened? What happened? And I heard someone who just talking about what I'm going through, who sent me, you don't know what the state Senate does as I'm running for state Senate in Georgia. Basically, we just create laws. And, and I responded, I'm like, wait, so you create laws for the whole state of Georgia, and you mean to tell me that you represent a district and you do not even ask your district how you respond, number one. Number two, you don't even ask your district what do you need and facilitate getting funding for your district in relates to state-of-the-art YMCAs, having more seniors secured in nursing homes. A lot of nursing homes these days, they are sedating seniors to expire. Why don't we do something about that? Because all seniors need is to eat more. Why can't we have a feeding program? And I'm talking about feeding program all the way around, a volunteer program, where we're going in just to nursing homes just to feed our elders because they are guided with the wisdom. So I'm being thrown all this stuff, and I'm like, you know what? I'm running for office because you know what? I care about people, and people, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, we have to do what's best. That utilitarian concept, doing the best for the majority of people. But what we're doing is we're kowtowing to special interests, Victor. Mm-hmm. We're kowtowing to special interests. The reason that they can do that is because when the General Assembly goes into form, most people at work. Oh. Who's there? Nothing but lobbyists.
You're absolutely right. And one thing, and Annette, I'm sure you'll agree with me, there is no greater power or force in this world than when Americans stand up together and say, enough. We, the people, will control this land. We, the people, send you to Washington, not to hold us down on a plantation and give us the crumbs that Pelosi likes to talk about. No, we the people send you to Washington to get out of the way. Set up the people for success. This is what we need more of. So, Annette, when you're on the trail and you're campaigning, because you're running, Annette, for, what's the district?
It's State Senate District 55, but it encompasses the 4th Congressional District in which you ran in, Victor. I was with you.
Oh,
and
yes.
let me tell you this. They missed a golden opportunity.
You are too kind.
Golden. When I say golden opportunity, a golden opportunity.
Well,
Get someone in who cared about people. Now, I will say they have another golden opportunity in a gentleman, Joe Profit, who is a former NFL player. He's a businessman. He was the first African-American, and you talk about minorities, who owned an IHOP, a McDonald's, a Burger King. Who was a businessman.
I know
and he still has a multimedia company that helps children be published authors. Those are the type of men and women that we need.
Well, Annette,
in position. You're an advocate.
Oh, you, Joe Prophet, are perfect examples of who we should be looking up to. Kids should be looking up to. Not Colin Kaepernick or some of these NFL guys or basketball guys. I mean, we have some good examples out there of minorities who have done well for themselves. And you know the old saying, I mean, when you can fend for yourself, it's limitless what you can do. And Annette, I again, thank you so much for your kind words. But you know very well South DeKalb area and how hard it is to get those people to understand it's okay to vote for change. You know, in 2008, they ran around talking about change.
That's right.
Well, we need them to think about that change again and have the courage to look and say, okay, so Gloria Butler has been my representative, my state senate for how many years?
20.
For 20 years. Are things better for the people of DeKalb County or of your district?
No. Let me tell you, there's no economic development. The Georgia General Assembly put in what is known as, community improvement districts, right? So in Gwinnett, they have what is considered Evermore. Evermore is putting in bridges over major thoroughfares. They just put the American flag on light poles. They put parking benches. They put trash cans. That's what we're supposed to be doing in the community, doing revitalization, and 10% or 20% comes from the commercial business owners in the area. So we have not even developed commerce. In the last 20 years, no anchor hotels. And South DeKalb, if South DeKalb were to ever become a city, they would be the second largest city in Georgia. The Democratic leadership doesn't want it.
No, of course not.
They don't want it. Billy Mitchell, he was going to sign off on it, and the next thing you know, when they were going to take it to a vote, from my understanding, he didn't even show up. So they had to go to a Republican. They had to go to Josh McCoon to sign up the city of South DeKalb in the Senate. So he did it. But here's the deal now. Josh McCoon, after December, he will be out of the state Senate. So there is nobody. And there were some men, Dean Hurd and Shealy, who were running on a Democratic ticket because they were in South DeKalb, business owners in commercial real estate. The people of South DeKalb did not pick them to represent them. So now the city of Greenhaven is looking like, wait, how do we get this across to just put the city of South DeKalb on the ballot? There's only one person who is able, who's still running, and that's me. Annette Davis Jackson. So me winning that seat will help South DeKalb. Otherwise, they've exhausted every single option right now.
And what I want to stress, too, and Annette, you come at it this way, this is not about left versus right. It's not about Democrat versus Republican. This is about let's do something that's actually going to help people.
Yes.
And I'm here to say that your beloved Democrat that you have voted for year after year after year, and this goes the same for Hank Johnson in the 4th District, year after year after year, things haven't changed for you. The people of South DeKalb what I heard the most would come up to me and say, we want to be like North DeKalb. Well, if you want to be like North DeKalb, then you got to stop voting for the same people that are holding you back. And yes, I said it. They are holding the people of South DeKalb back. So if the people of South DeKalb want to send a shockwave, not just through Georgia, but through all the way to Washington,
come on, preach.
Then they need to put in a Republican like Annette Davis or like Joe Prophet. You want to send a shockwave, you show the Democrat Party that you are no longer beholden to them, that you're no longer going to be taken for granted, and you're no longer going to be held back by their rhetoric. So tell me, Annette, you can make it happen.
You know what? Let me tell you, I can make it happen. And I remember being at Jesse Kearney's church. Jesse Kearney used to be with Bishop Eddie Long in Lithonia, who's a part of the district and a part of the 4th Congressional District. Pastor Eddie Long, he's now since passed, but he was one of his sons in the ministry, and so he now has a church in Lilburn. And I told them, I said, look, you're coming to hear me say what I'm going to do in the 55th Senatorial District. I said, look, I'm a former college coach in golf and tennis. I need all of you guys to stand up. Right? And so I need to stand up because you're depending upon me for me to do something for you. I said, it's we the people. You guys have to do it. You have to do it. And you have to tell me, what do you want done by comprehensive planning? And I will be your voice.
You know,
that's how it works. You guys got it backwards.
You know, Annette, you hit a point here. We need to get to a point where the businesses and leadership that are in South DeKalb have the courage to stand up and say, we aren't going to stay married to the letter D. We're going to give a chance to the letter R or the letter L, if they want to put it that way. But what it should be is we're going to give a person, we're going to give someone like Annette a chance. Let's see what she can do, because what's going on for the past years is the same, and there are no results. The only results are bad results. But we need people that can drop that stigma. So there's so many people in South DeKalb that are afraid to come out and say, I can vote for you, Victor. I can vote for you, Annette. I can vote for you, Joe, because they're afraid of the backlash they're going to get from their community. And that somehow, we've got to get through to that, because I heard so many times, I had people come up to me and go, please don't tell anybody I'm telling you this, but I'm going to vote for a Republican for the first time in my life.
That's right. That's right.
So Annette, how do we get through to
you know, it's simple. We have to go to the airways, and we have to deliver the message. Here's the message, you know. No more wandering in the wilderness. No more wandering in the wilderness. We're going to pull down that stronghold immediately and right now, because if you plan to have us in the same situation in the next 20 years, guess what? No, we cannot vote for you. We have to say no. We have to do the round circle with the line in between it. No, in District 55 and in Congressional District 4. And Victor, it's so interesting because Joe Prophet is running now, right? Mm-hmm. And so he's an accomplishment. You ran 2 years ago. You have so many accomplishments, and I've run in the 4th Congressional District too, when it was down to the border of Savannah, and I received 43% of the vote. This district is doable to snatch only because we're here to produce commerce.
Absolutely.
We're here to produce walkability.
Absolutely.
Livability that makes sense. And in the Wesley Chapel area, what is the Atlanta Regional Commission gave $440,000 to the Wesley Chapel corridor for livability, walkability under Larry Johnson, who's the commissioner of DeKalb.
Well, that is great, Annette. That is awesome. Listen, I'm going to have to end it there. We're coming up to the end of the show. Thank you so much, Annette. Ladies and gentlemen, get out there and check her out. Again, send a shockwave. Let's send somebody like Annette into the Senate. Let's send somebody like Joe. Once again, just you want change, then have the courage to send somebody new. Forget about the party. Send them new.
Yes.
Thanks so much, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you next week at 2 o'clock.
Yes.
Thank you.
Understanding health insurance is becoming more challenging. If you currently have insurance, you've probably noticed that it costs more to see your doctor. And if you're able to keep your doctor, it takes longer to get an appointment. The bad news is this trend is projected to continue. Your costs will likely continue to rise, while your healthcare choice and access will continue to fall. The good news is Peachtree ENT Center has the answer to this problem. We believe in taking care of the whole patient because healing is more than writing a prescription. We are committed to working with you, and we specialize in providing affordable care for patients without insurance, those who are underinsured, and those with high deductibles or catastrophic coverage. And we offer same-day appointments. You no longer have to choose between staying healthy and paying bills because Peachtree ENT Center is where patient care counts.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
This is Dr. Susan Blank, host of Detailing Addiction and medical director of the Atlanta Healing Center. Please join me on Tuesday afternoons at 4 p.m.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Karuchak. Have you ever wondered what doctors talk about amongst themselves? If you do, join us on the Doctor's Lounge and hear the doctors' conversations amongst themselves. Join me and my co-host, Dr. Hal Schertz, every Thursday morning, 8 to 9 a.m.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you.
A market which would actually be better care. And one effort that people can read about if they choose to is HIP Nation, HIP-nation.com. And this is a direct primary care / specialty product where people can get their doctor, they can get access to a specialty care ecosystem, people who are specialists who are willing to participate in this and give health care, and people can get this for less than $150 a month. And
you're listening to America's Web Radio. And now time for the Classic Car Show with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber.
Good morning and welcome to America's Web Radio and the Classic Car Show. And we have our favorite, I think our favorite guest of all and ever and all time. And we have the executive director, the head Kumba, whatever you want. You know, I guess he's the one that everybody salutes as he walks across the hallowed grounds.
Except for Mr. Ronaldo.
Except for, well, Mr. Ronaldo doesn't salute. Anyway, we have Mr. Steve Moskowitz on, and he's going to tell us the inside story of everything in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and what's going on with... If people don't know the name Steve Moskowitz, he is Mr. AACA Executive Director. He makes the big decisions. He has the big pen. And what else can I say about him, Jim?
Well, I'm waiting for Steve Ronaldo to say something.
I can't top that. I mean, that's not even possible.
Guys, that's certainly an introduction that hardly anybody believes, and the only salute I get might be with the middle finger. So,
and in the old car hobby, he's known as the Nancy Pelosi of the old car hobby.
Oh my God! Oh, Steve, you don't deserve that.
Yeah, that one wounded me.
Hey, do you know that she was Miss Lou Brack of 1952? Nancy Pelosi.
No, wait a minute. Now, what's this?
She was Miss Lou Brack of 1952.
She was on the rack in 1952? All right. Anyway, well, what's going on with AACA?
Well, lots going on. Of course, we're all getting ready for all of you to visit here in a few weeks. But, of course, the real big thing that's happening now is kicking off our capital campaign for our new digs, our new domicile. few years ago, it was determined that our building was just not big enough to house our staff and get the work done, and particularly our library had begun to run out of room. And with future collections coming to the library, we had to do something. We had already reached the most amount of square footage we could get out of our current facility due to the zoning requirements, and so it meant finding somewhere else. And we were very fortunate that a building became available that if we put a pin on the map before this as to where we would want to be, it would be this exact spot. It's on Hershey Park Drive in Pennsylvania, which gets 10 to 12 million cars running through it each year, and it's right next to the spot where we have our Fall Mead Car Show, and is 6 acres and parking galore, and just a beautiful facility sitting on high. So we think we have the ability now to do a lot of new and better things for the entire hobby, not just for our members, because we'll have a building that we can actually get some more work out of.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the? I know that you've told some people. What are some of the plans that I know you're going to add some interesting things that people in the hobby can use?
Yeah, I mean we're if you upstairs in the library, we're going to configure it with all the latest and greatest library tools for. We get a lot of people that like to do research, and in a typical library setting, you're all out on the main floor. We're going to have private rooms for those that are there to write books and do research, and
really
can sit in there without being bothered. We'll have a video room where people can watch. We're digitizing videos like crazy, and even film strips. We've got about 200 Chevrolet film strips that Chris was working on just last week, and all of our videos are being digitized. So we'll have a room that somebody can pop in, close the door, and watch the videos. And just the whole layout of that upstairs is going to be more conducive to people that really are interested in library services. And, of course, with the expanded inventory that we're going to have, we're really going to be able to help people more than we've ever had before, because we're just going to have, 2 million pieces is great, but when we get to 3 million pieces, we're going to have some literature that nobody else in the world will have. And downstairs, of course, that's the work of the club, but when you come in the front door, there's going to be a couple very unique displays. Right now, we're not 100% sure what they're going to be, but we got some concepts going, and we're looking at. There's some amazing technology out there right now. We've seen a demonstration of for lack of a better word, a gigantic book on a pedestal. I mean, it's a huge book, but when the pages are turned on this book, they're all digital pages, and you can. Just like you see on TV with people pressing their finger and the screens change. So we'll be able to put our history and all that into this giant book that people will get to be interactive with. And we're going to have a few more cars to show. We have a 6-car garage out there that we plan on changing 4 to 5 of the garage doors to glass, and we'll have cars facing outward for people to look at when they come on the property. And we're going to have a lot of neat things, all depending on how much money is left in the bank when we get done with this thing.
What's your estimated budget or estimated need?
Well, it's probably pretty close to right around $8 million.
Ronaldo could take that out.
I'll bring it to Hershey. Don't worry.
We've been thinking that the Steve Ronaldo AACA national headquarters had a nice ring to it, and we could not think of any greater honor, to be truthful with you, to have that. But we'll see if he comes up here and makes that offer.
Well, he'd have to take some lumps out of the mattress, though, Steve.
How about, I know at one time you were talking about a theater in there and stuff, and a big meeting area and all of that things that are going to be available.
We'll certainly have, we're going to have a very large boardroom, so there'll be spots, we think, for regions in the area who need to have a meeting and other groups, but until the final plans get developed, we don't know. The idea of the theater was something that we really, really wanted to do, but I don't think this building's going to lend that to happen, and the space requirements for the library tend to keep growing, so I think that's one that maybe someday we can do an addition and add that to it, but for right now, I don't think that one's going to happen.
Oh, yeah, because that's a space it's nice to have, but how often would it get used?
Yeah.
Steve, right now, though, you still offer services for every member that wants to call in and do research, correct?
Well, yeah, we certainly do. It's not just members. That's what makes AACA unique, I believe, in the car hobby, because it's not just about AACA members. It's about the whole antique car community, collectible vehicle community. Anybody can use it. Our library is a public library. Anybody can use it. The services are available, whether you're a member or not. Our members get an hour and a half of free research a year, but anybody can use it. It's open, and so right now, you call in, get research done. You can come in, get research done. We can make digital copies. We can put things on a CD and send them to people. We can do hard copies. We can do just about anything. So we'll continue to do things like that and host other car clubs on our website because that's what we should be doing. We should be helping the entire antique car hobby. That's what we're there for.
Yeah, Steve, because of our conversation yesterday, we're going to have a little picture-taking session here in a minute. But I was just thinking, do you have, or what is, I come with my family, my kids, my young boys, whatever. Can people bring their cameras and take pictures of the kids next to a car, or the grandparents with the grandkids next to the cars? Or
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we do right now. We have a nice collection of cars. We have a motorcycle, a Harley Davidson. We've got several brass cars in our lobby, and we've got a 40 Ford convertible. And so, but yeah, we get a lot of people come visit and take pictures inside our facility. So, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is seeing where the new building is going to be at Hershey? Is there going to be a way for people who want to see where it is to go over there, or is it like one of the shuttle bus rides or something?
Well, if you're over at the car show, you're right next door to it. You can stand there in the car corral and look across the street and see the building. And if you're at the car show, you're essentially in our backyard because the building is right in front. And if you go over and look at the race cars, the race cars are shown on the hardtop, the pavement, the lot of the building that we will be owning here soon.
Cool. I hope we can get that word out to people to come and take a look.
Yeah, we're trying to do that. I wrote something about that in our article. We can't go inside the building. They're still doing business there, and it's a secure facility. But you certainly can see the outside of it and see the incredible location that it's going to give us.
Where will my reserved parking place be?
We do have a special spot for you. I'll have to explain that to you later.
Not for public consumption, is that what you're saying?
Steve, are you going to have a fundraising booth in the flea market?
No, we're not. While we need to do everything we can to make money, the fall meet's about doing what we always do there, and people are out there and enjoying themselves and doing all sorts of things and finding the parts that they they have desired in that thing, and we just didn't want to enter that element into it. We've got something out in our magazine. We've got a brochure we just printed, and we'll be getting that in the hands of all of our members. And it's interesting. This brochure just came out, and it's been delivered to only a few people right now. But the level of interest and the level of support is right now pretty overwhelming. Just a quick story. A man called me yesterday with a complaint, and it wasn't a complaint that we deserved. He got his facts wrong, and after he heard the story, the end result was he donated $20,000 to the building fund.
That was nice of you.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's not a man I knew, ever met before. He's in Sioux City, Iowa, away from the club.
Yeah.
But he was passionate enough about what our mission was. And so we're hoping that there's a lot of people that are doing their estate planning and thinking about
I'm not sure, Steve, but
where they want their money to go, that they'll consider us.
I was going to tell Ronaldo, I think somebody just got your parking place.
Yeah. Well, I just a thought. I would like to. You think some of you guys might want to think about is getting a board up at the tent, like the library tent or something, where people can look and tell people where this is going to be, and they might want to just walk over and take a look.
Yeah, we'll take a. We had something. We had some sandwich boards. We still do that show a picture of it, and we certainly can bring them back this year.
Yeah, well, Tom Cox can walk around with a sandwich board on him.
You'd look good in one.
Riding my new device there.
Oh, yes. By the way, Mr. Moskowitz, are you aware that Mr. Ronaldo will be riding an electric scooter through the grounds?
I was not. Quite the sight.
Yeah. Well, you guys get golf carts, but, we'll give it a try and see how it works.
Mr. Moskowitz, how can people donate? Let's go through that, and amount or anything like that make any difference, but how do they contact you, and how do they send you a check or give you a credit card or whatever is best?
Well, any and all they simply can call our office, send us a letter. We do have some naming opportunities. The whole building can be named after somebody, and going all the way down to the lowest naming opportunity, which is a stack in the library, which is $1,000. But everybody that donates to this building will be able to come to the building afterwards and see something. I don't know sure what we're going to do, but we are making sure we quantify every single donation and honor those people that are helping us. So we'll have various different ways that we're going to have them print through the magazine and through Speedster or online on our website. But they simply can call our office in Hershey and say, I'd like to make a donation, and give us a credit card. We can do it that way, or again, like I say, put it in the mail to 501 West Governor Road in Hershey, Pennsylvania, 17033, and we'll be glad to accept anything.
I was just thinking about, and a lot of members are our age, and hobbyists are our age, and unfortunately, a lot of folks our age are looking at grassroots now, and are beginning to. And I was just thinking that this is the perfect thing for a family. Well, Dad or Granddad was, he loved his Model A or his Model T, and he was so involved in the hobby. What can we do to remember? And this would be the perfect thing for, a donation in memory of.
I completely agree with you. May sound self-serving, but I really think being a part of this facility, which is so important to the hobby as a whole, to have a remembrance there for the last another century, to be there for people to come and see, I think it's a perfect opportunity to to recognize and remember and remember all the people that actually built this hobby. That's what I think is kind of cool about some of the people that have donated so far. It's the people that really served as the backbone of this hobby, and without them, I don't know where we'd be today. So for a chance to honor them is great. Steve and I had a wake-up call yesterday about a dear friend who's got his last couple days on this earth facing him, and to see his name in our building somewhere would just mean an awful lot to a lot of us, and hopefully when people come in the building, they'll ask, who is this person and who is that person, and
that's cool. That means a lot. It does mean a lot.
Steve, we're going to have to take a quick break and let Passport get their acknowledgement in, and we'll be back with Mr. Steve Moskowitz right after this.
Behind the most trusted name in auto transportation, Passport Transport, the first and finest today. That's why Passport Transport is the preferred auto transport for major auto manufacturers, concours, museums, tours, and collectors, and should be your choice from across the state to across the country. When you have the need, go to PassportTransport.com and enjoy the peace of mind referenced experience will give you. Passport Transport.
Hi, this is Steve Ronaldo, host of the Classic Car Show on America's Web Radio. Just talking to you about antique car insurance. I think that if you're looking for the best coverage for your classic car, consider J.C. Taylor Insurance. They've been my insurer for years in this hobby and have the top rating of all of the insurance companies in the hobby. When you get ready for insurance, call J.C. Taylor or visit jctaylor.com on the Internet.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And we're glad to have you listening to America's Web Radio today in the Classic Car Show with our very special guest, Mr. Steve Moskowitz, Executive Director of AACA. And that is, if you don't know, that's big time, folks. And even Mr. Ronaldo has to bow when he sees Mr. Musk. Anyway, Steve, we're glad to have you with us today.
It's all my pleasure.
Yeah, Steve, I just one comment on Speedster. It's wonderful. And I hope every member gets it now, because I remember it had a little bit of a slow takeoff. But I really enjoy reading that when it comes out, which is monthly. So just if you'd let the editors and everybody know that it is appreciated.
We certainly will. It's we're over 32,000 emails, and according to the analytics, it's being read far more than most of these kind of email blasts, and so we're way up on the top percentile of people that are actually using it, and then they're actually doing a deep dive, clicking on some of the links in there. And so it's a great way for us to get more timely with our members about what's happening in the hobby and provide them with unique stories that we particularly don't have room for in our magazine. So it communication is everything. As you guys know, you're in that kind of business, and this gives us the opportunity to really communicate with our members in the hobby.
The magazine is what has happened, and I think Speedster and other things are what is happening, and I think that's really important.
Yeah.
For stuff.
Yeah, we ought to get your picture in Speedster sometime. You know that?
Guys, we're trying to grow that.
Oh, yeah, I
you
see.
can put that out in your garden and keep the blackbirds away.
Or bird cage liners, Let me, with this library growing, and I think the library is, from where we started years ago, and I can't even remember, but it was small. We're with this thing getting bigger, do you see other organizations, other people with big literature collections sending it to the library?
Absolutely. I mean, the cool thing about our library is it's a real professional library. I don't know another automotive library or or other kind of special library that has 3 librarians with their master's degree. We have heating and air conditioning system that keeps everything to the exact specifications we need. Everything's stored in the correct way. We have a high-tech security system for the materials, and we have a clean fire suppression system. All those that are just absolutely essential in having a modern library. So donors that understand that their collections are going to be cared for and preserved in the right way, and not worry about them being stored somewhere where they're going to get mold on them, or somewhere they're going to get degraded, or somebody that doesn't have security, like a certain big library that's seen dust like crazy. They're coming to us, and we have a collection coming to us that I can't say for certain, but I think it may be the largest privately owned library in the country.
Really?
Wow. That is already being willed to us, or as the donor said, if he decides that it's just time to do it, it's going to come to us. So Chris and I have toured it, and I got to tell you, I got a little lightheaded and almost passed out when I saw the material that this man has collected.
Really? Wow. That's amazing. Are you going to have room for all this stuff, or are you going to already starting the expansion plans?
Well, in the new building, we'll have room for it. But certainly, if he called tomorrow, said, "I need you to take it," we could not handle it properly. So that's why it's even more critical that we get this building done, and we get in our new digs, and then we can start handling it. And I think even a lot of, we've got a lot of car clubs, National Corvette Restorer Society, the Buick Heritage Alliance, the Dodge Brothers, the Vintage Chevrolet Club, Lincoln Motor Car Foundation, a whole bunch of them that have their materials stored in our museum, our library. So, that kind of tells you what the hobby thinks about the professionalism of the AACA Library and Research Center.
Yeah, I think it's fabulous. I really do think that those guys, Chris and his guys, do a great job at the library. And it's important. And it's so important, because how would you find out anything,
Well, Steve, I used to have to dig in the Detroit Free Public Library in the automotive section back in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of those that you went in there and you had to find it type thing. And it was really the only library in the country at that time that you could find things. And I'm wondering, whatever happened to that collection? Is it still there, or did they have issues?
It's still there. Unfortunately, you cannot go in and see it other than by appointment, and they don't open it up till they get enough appointments, and then they tell everybody this is the day you could come. And sadly, there's a lot of material there that is, let's say, left the building.
Yes.
A lot of very, very important. We've taken the step to trademark the name America's Automotive Library, and you're going to start to see this month that being used a lot more. We've got some full-page ads out and some publications, and we're going to use that name because that's who we are, that's what we are, and as we've said from day one, we don't want to be a warehouse for this material. We want it to be used. So that's the whole goal, is to tell people, look, if you need research, get a hold of the library. Every day I see posts on our forum on our AACA website. People are asking a question when all they had to do was call up the library, and they would have gotten the correct answer.
Sure.
Yeah. That's great.
How big a staff does Chris have? My goodness.
Well, he's got the two other librarians with their master's degree, but we now are up to about 5 individuals that give us some significant volunteer time, and that has been a huge help to us. We've got some pretty dedicated volunteers that enjoy what they're doing there, and we enjoy having them, and it's become quite a team up there.
Well,
fabulous.
Yeah, it is great. Now, just sort of, what's going to become of the old headquarters compound over there, complex, or whatever you want to call it?
Well, all we know is we're hoping somebody will come and buy it and use it for whatever they want. It'll be up for sale.
Oh, okay.
We'll move out and let somebody else take on using it for the next millennium. Well,
would they need to be in the car hobby?
No. I envision it's probably going to be medical offices. That's what I think will end up happening to it. But who knows?
Because it is a nice setting. It really is a nice setting and a nice building.
It's a beautiful setting, and it's got its charm to it. It just doesn't work for us anymore. The original building was built in 1932 and was called Rolling Green. It was actually a dormitory and school for Milton Hershey School. It's where the kids stayed and lived and worked the farm during the day and were taught things like sewing and everything else. And then in 85, we built on the addition for the library. So it's a unique building. But it's time for somebody else to enjoy it.
Yeah. Steve, you've got another little event coming up. I think it's something you all do annually. You want to sort of prep us for
the Eastern Division Fall Meet, which is normally just called Hershey, is always the first full week in October. It's the best week of the year, we all say. It's coming home to Mecca. It's all your holidays wrapped up into one. There'll be over close to 9,000 flea market spaces that have been sold. There'll be probably at least 800 cars in the car corral, 1,200 cars at the car show on Saturday. RM has a big auction for 2 days in Hershey, and we'll have 250,000 visitors during the week from over 30 different countries. If it's anything as normal, you'll hear every language you can possibly think of. And it's the place to find that part you've not been able to find, a place to eat a lot of junk food and have a ball and see old friends.
It is fun,
It's just... you can't ever describe it to people unless you've experienced it. And anytime you describe it to somebody, they say,
Yeah, I hear it too.
We've been to car events. But when they come to Hershey, they say, well, why didn't you tell us it was this big? It's gigantic. It's 25 miles of walking if you walk every single stall. And it's just, when you're around that many people, all who are there because they love cars. It's just a wonderful week, and people just save bringing their treasures to this event. So there's always wonderful things to buy and things that you actually need.
And the people are great. I've been going since the late 50s with my father, and it's great. I mean, the people are what make the whole thing.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
I can't help visualizing Mr. Ronaldo on his electric scooter riding down the aisle, Steve. I mean, I hope there's a picture of this in Speedster sometime.
Well, we'll have to get it, but let me tell you, sadly, there's a lot of people in scooters.
Okay.
The hobby has aged, and it's the people that need them.
Speak for yourself.
We're glad they can get there.
Yeah.
So scooter or whatever, we'll be thrilled. Steve's got a lot of fans in the AACA, and he's always friendly to people. So
is there any?
Kidding aside, we'll enjoy seeing him here.
When we come back, I guess I want to ask you about any special things that are going to be happening at Hershey, and then hit on Philadelphia for a thing, because I think that's one of the least cool things, one of the best cool things that is least known in the hobby and in our club.
With that being said, we are going to take our second break. Steve will be right back with you right after this.
All right.
Hi, my name is Steve Ronaldo, host of the Classic Car Show on America's Web Radio, talking to you about antique car insurance. In this hobby that I've been part of for years, not all insurance companies and insurance coverage is the same. I would suggest that you call J.C. Taylor or visit jctaylor.com to find out some information about some of the best antique car insurance you can get, such as agreed value insurance for your classic car. Again, when you get ready to insure your classic, antique, or even your street rod, call J.C. Taylor Insurance or visit jctaylor.com.
My name is Kyle Hayes, a motorsports student at Alfred State College. Every year, Alfred State students compete in the Great Race, which is a cross-country time endurance rally for vintage vehicles. As you can imagine, it's pretty costly. I'm asking for your help. Your donation can make it possible for these students to live their passion and promote the vintage automobile industry. Please visit our site at give.alfredstate.edu and search Great Race to learn more and help us reach our goal. Thank you.
Your auto love and investment demands the best, and for 45 years, Passport Transport has been meeting those demands. From manufacturers to the one-car collectors and all other facets of the auto industry and antique auto hobby. The first and the finest with unequaled service and peace of mind. Passport Transport, your auto transportation company. Contact PassportTransport.com with your need today. Passport Transport.
Whether cruising the Strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the americasbroadcastnetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And we're back on America's Web Radio on the Classic Car Show with our special guest from Hershey, Pennsylvania, Mr. Steve Moskowitz. And Steve is the executive director, for those that don't know, the executive director of AACA, Antique Automobile Club of America, the biggest club in the antique car hobby. And Steve, how long have you held that position?
Actually, last week was my 15th anniversary. I'm trying to figure out how the heck that happened, because it seemed like just the other day I started, and where those years have gone, it's
amazing.
Puzzling.
Well, and the club has really grown, too. So, and we've got the new magazine, and Wes has done a great job with that. And as I mentioned, Speedster, and look at how the library has developed. So you get an attaboy today, Steve.
Well, it's I got a great team behind me, and it's.
I want to add something to that, if you don't mind me interrupting for a second. Not only are they good in what they do, but very important to an old man like myself is they're all very nice. And to find a big organization with efficient and professional people in it that are also nice is hard to do today in many cases. But your folks are just genuinely nice to talk to, nice to deal with, and nice to do business with. So, again, and it always goes to the top. The bad goes to the top, but also the good. And you should be commended over and over again for your choice of people.
Well, thank you. As I keep telling our people, it's a service business. We exist for one reason. That's to take care of people, and that's one thing I insist on. If I do anything right, we're there to have a smile on our face, to try to help people. I love the talking with them. We get a lot of very, very elderly people who are not in the best of health. Will call up, and sometimes they're frustrated because of modern technology or whatever it is. But you never know that day that person might be just lonely and needing somebody to talk to. And although we're busy, we need to take the time with everybody that calls up. And
there's so many times that it gets a little frustrating for us, but then you talk to that one person that you made their day, and it doesn't get any better than that. So when you have an opportunity to help make somebody's life better, that's great, and that doesn't cost us anything. So all of our staff totally understand that we're there to be in our best mood and best humor. As not everybody has a perfect day, but that's what we need to do on our jobs.
That's great. The library, will there be the special tent sale again this year?
Yeah, that's Tuesday night from 4 to 7. That's an incredible opportunity. When we get materials that are duplicates or triplicates, there's no sense in hoarding them. So every year we take our excess literature and we have a big lawn sale, cook up some hot dogs, and individuals are able to find some pretty amazing pieces of literature at what I would consider wholesale or close to wholesale figures, because a lot of literature dealers are there buying stuff up left and right. So it's a great opportunity. It's all super organized, and so you can come to the library on Tuesday from 4 to 7 and probably find a lot of great treasures of literature for your cars or your collection.
And then during the year, do you want to tell our listeners how we are able to buy excess, especially like books? I bought some great books to fill holes in my library.
Yeah, we, again, because particularly books, we get a lot of people that, as they're downsizing and moving and things like that, will give us their books, and that lends to a lot of excess titles. So we have an eBay site. You can find the AACA library on eBay, and they're sold there. And you can come into the building. We have a lot of people that come in with boxes, and they do their shopping, and we'll have a nice section of books and some pretty amazing books as well. I mean, I have to stay away from there because I want. I've already got a library downstairs that my vision was when I retired I would start reading them, but that goal is really not working out very well.
I appreciate it when you let me borrow your copy of Playboy #1 out of your collection. I really, really do appreciate that. That was quite a thing.
The condition you gave it back in, though, was a little difficult, though.
You got him, Steve. You got him. Is there a new Steve Moskowitz?
He wins.
Ronaldo there.
Yeah. One of the other things while you're talking about this lawn, the sale at Hershey, is while you're there and I know this, the building is open. Go in and look at some of the history that's on the walls, and some of the old trophies, and some of the cool stuff that's on the walls in the existing headquarters building. There's some pretty cool pictures and things on the wall in there.
Absolutely, and the trophies are a real treasure. There's some trophies in our National Awards lobby. These are our permanent trophies that our owners and members can win during the year for showing their vehicles or doing service for AACA, but there's some very, very historical sterling silver trophies in there that just are so ornate and so fascinating to look at, and kind of tell you a little bit about the automotive history from the past. So Steve's absolutely right. There's a lot of little gems all over the building that are pretty fascinating, from a Stanley Wanless sculpture to paintings to trophies, lots of different things.
Yeah.
I want to brag, too, on the fact that you all not only say come to us, but you also go to them with your bookmobile.
Oh, yeah, the bookmobile, yeah.
And,
that's pretty exciting. This issue of the magazine has a cover of the bookmobile and a story about it. This was a dream come true. Sometimes you have dreams and you can't fulfill them, and we've wanted a bookmobile for a long, long time, and made a couple offers and never got them. And now that it's finished, our opportunity to go around where it's reasonable to different organizations and schools and put on presentations. The bookmobile is very authentically restored, but it's got some added technology. We've got some flat screen TVs in there and a generator, and so we can show films and put on PowerPoint presentations. So we envision this as going to be something pretty special in our ability to get the word out about the hobby and the need to preserve the hobby, and then to go to places where if we go to a Buick event where we can show some Buick history, or Chevrolet, there's some Chevy history. So it's going to have a lot of uses. It'll be on display at the library tent at Hershey, and it's just a stunning truck restored very authentically.
That's cool. It is a cool. Now I know it's getting close to a break time, but is there any special things happening at Hershey this year? Any things that we have a lot of members who listen that they should note and try to do and see? Any very special deals?
Well, besides seeing you come around in your scooter, that's probably number one I learned today. So that was something new that I can start promoting. But no, this is not a year of. It's just everything is pretty full. I hope Florence is not going to impact us too much. I'm sure it's going to have some impact on us, but. The RM auction has 100 lots of memorabilia. That's a new one for them. They normally don't have very much in memorabilia. And the show is the show, and can't hardly add anything spectacular to that. So it's just come around. There's going to be some new vendors, quite a few new vendors this year, and going to be some new food vendors. And downtown area had major construction, and I don't know if some of the new restaurants are going to be opened up by that time. I've been driving by, and the furniture's in there, and so hopefully a couple of them at least will be opened up for the fall meet, give people some new places to go. But other than that, no big overriding special thing this year that I can think of.
Steve, we're going to take our final break. We'll be back with Mr. Steve Moskowitz right after this.
Hi, this is Steve Rinaldo, host of the Classic Car Show on America's Web Radio. Just talking to you about antique car insurance. I think that if you're looking for the best coverage for your classic car, consider J.C. Taylor Insurance. They've been my insurer for years in this hobby and have the top rating of all of the insurance companies in the hobby. When you get ready for insurance, call J.C. Taylor or visit jctaylor.com on the internet.
45 years of experience is behind the most trusted name in auto transportation. Passport Transport, the first and finest today. That's why Passport Transport is the preferred auto transport for major auto manufacturers, concours, museums, tours, and collectors, and should be your choice from across the state to across the country. When you have the need, go to PassportTransport.com and enjoy the peace of mind referenced experience will give you. Passport Transport.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And we're back on America's Web Radio with our special guest today, Mr. Steve Moskowitz, Executive Director of AACA, the largest antique automobile club in the United States and probably in the world. So, Steve, welcome back, and we always appreciate you taking time from your extremely busy schedule to be on the Classic Car Show and put up with Steve Rinaldo.
It's my pleasure, guys. It really is. You do a wonderful service for the hobby, and you're to be commended, because without people like you providing these kind of outlets to keep the hobby alive, we wouldn't be where we are today. So huge kudos to you guys for what you do.
Thank you. Well, we have a good audience that listens live, and we promoted the fact that you were going to be on. But the biggest thing is that we do incredible numbers on our podcast. We download the show. It'll be on the website hopefully by about Monday or Tuesday, and people listen to it all times from all around the world, and we appreciate the loyalty that people have given us. And I want to thank, and this I'm biting my tongue, but I have to. I want to thank Steve Ronaldo for being, he started with me with this show, and this goes back many
15 years, I think.
15 years, yeah 16 years. Well, we've been around for 17 years, so you started shortly thereafter, and then Jim, how long, when did you join? About 10 years ago?
Probably Steve's the one that invited me. Yeah.
So, you know, my thanks to them, and because of Steve Ronaldo and Jim, I've been able to meet some wonderful folks, Bill Warner and a number of other folks, Steve Moskowitz, and
we've had Tom Cotter on.
And Tom Cotter.
A couple times, yeah.
You know, it's just been, you got to enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah. Mrs. Swiggert's been on.
Yeah, the chicken dance lady.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, how did Patty like the reliability tour?
I heard she enjoyed it, but I didn't hear much. I mean, it's really pretty insane at the office right now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We are just, personally, I'm overwhelmed with what's going on right now, and so not been a lot of time for debriefing on those where, you know, it's our renewal time coming up, and Hershey coming up, and just so much going on that we're all.
Nice to see her. It's nice to see somebody from headquarters.
Steve, a minute ago you were talking about the volunteers that help. How can anyone write or say, look, I'm going to be up, I'm taking my vacation, I'm going to be in Hershey for a week. Is there any way I can volunteer my time?
Yeah, depending on the circumstances at the time. Sometimes there's jobs that need to be done that don't require a ton of training. So the short answer is yes, but a qualified yes.
Steve, on the whole Hershey weekend, do you have any celebrities expected this year? I know you had Wayne Carini a couple times.
Yeah, Wayne Carini and Ralph Morano, of course, are mainstays. Wayne's only going to be there for a day and a half this year because he's got a command performance. His wife has a birthday, and he's got to be home for that.
I would think so.
I know about that.
Yeah. So this is nowhere near definite, but Jay Leno's in the area putting on a performance on Friday night, and we've invited him to the show on Saturday and told him, look, whatever special things we need to do for you in order to get you here, we will do so. I have not heard an answer back. One of Jay's very, very good friends has actually made the ask. There's a very, 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 very famous author that's going to be here that writes about cars in his novels. I don't think I should bring out the name yet because this is his first time coming here on his bucket list, and I don't know if he wants it known, but he's going to be there. We've made some provisions for him to get around. He's in his 80s.
So we shouldn't ask we shouldn't ask.
There's always famous people there, like your own Steve Ronaldo as well.
Isn't Steve Ronaldo sort of like what Truman said about this day will remain in infamy? And Steve is infamous.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about Hershey after you've been there is that there are so many characters at Hershey.
Oh yeah.
You start to.
I don't even stand out.
Yeah. We got people that make Steve look like a clergyman. I mean,
gee.
Now that I find a little.
Oh man.
Seriously, there's a guy that takes a card around every year, and he wears like a goofy hat and with the ears and
that is Steve.
and he's got all sorts of names that he calls himself on the cart. There's a little horn. I mean, it's amazing. The different kinds of people around there.
It's a great event.
Yeah, but you might see Fred Simeone walking down one of the aisles.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, or Bill Warner, guys like that, Tom Cotter, car guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people from the West Coast.
Bill Warner has always told me that Hershey is his favorite week of the year. It's his Christmas and all his holidays wrapped into one. And Bill's gone through some tough medical issues.
Yeah, he has.
And, so we've helped him to be able to navigate this year because he didn't want to miss it. And that's when you see these guys that are super important in the hobby and do so much for everybody else, and then you see just Joe Sixpack, your good buddy, and it's just you're all day long, you're shaking hands, you're smiling at people, and it's just a good feel story the whole week long.
It is. It's wonderful. I've had taken a lot of people, and the best description I can tell is when we come over the hill on 39, and you can see the size of this thing. The size of this thing. There's one comment that's almost universal. Holy shit! Look at this. That's what they say. Almost everybody says it. They can't believe it. They can't believe what they're going to get to.
Okay. Are you still with us, Steve?
I'm still with us.
What about Philadelphia? What's up for Philadelphia this year?
Well, Philadelphia this year is our annual meeting. The club has been having an annual meeting for over 80 years now, and we have it downtown Philadelphia where the club was started. We have it at a hotel. The hotel this year has a new name, but it's the same place.
Really?
It's undergoing some massive renovations, so they've changed the name for 1 year until the renovations are finished. But we will have a trade show. We'll have seminars. We'll have hopefully a guest speaker. Right now, I'm hoping Lynn St. James is going to join us.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
And so we've got quite a week for people. They can go to judging school. They can, attend a variety of different seminars, and we're really working on ramping up our seminars to make them better and more interesting and different, and not do the same ones every year. Saturday night, it concludes with our version of the Oscars, where we will honor some people for their service to the club, and also give out honors to about 62 of the top cars in the club. Steve's one of our national award judges, where we will pick the best Chevrolet and the best Buick and best Duesenberg and all those kinds of things from the approximately 3,500 to 4,000 cars that are shown during the year. So when you ramp that down to 62 cars, these are the best of the best. And so that's a very, very special night for our members. And it's a black tie optional, and some people dress in period clothing, and all go up and get a beautiful crystal trophy representing all their hard efforts and on behalf of the club or restoring their cars. So it's kind of a cool evening, a great week, another great week where you're surrounded by people that care about AACA and care about the hobby.
Chief, we're going to have to start looking towards wrapping it up. Let's go over your website and how people can send a donation to your Capitol Building Fund.
Okay, our website is www.aaca.org, and you can call our offices at 717-534-1910. Ask to speak to anybody, ask to speak to me, or you can send a donation and just earmark it for the Building Fund to AACA, 501 West Governor Road, Hershey, Pennsylvania, 17033.
Steve, thank you so much for being on today, and we're going to have you on again real soon. We're going to let you take a breath, get through the next few weeks, and then we'll come back and recap how it went.
My pleasure, guys. Always here.
All right. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right, looking forward to it. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
45 years of experience is behind the most trusted name in auto transportation. Passport Transport, the first and finest today. That's why Passport Transport is the preferred auto transport for major auto manufacturers, concours, museums, tours, and collectors, and should be your choice from across the state to across the country. When you have the need, go to PassportTransport.com and enjoy the peace of mind referenced experience will give you. Passport Transport.
The disease of addiction is a life-altering challenge, not just for the person suffering its effects, but also for the family and friends who support and love the one caught in its grasp. What should be the course of treatment? Who is the best person to render treatment? And what is the best place to go for the care that is needed? We know that you want answers to these and many more questions. Call 770-696-9862 and speak to a representative of the Atlanta Healing Center. They can tailor a program specifically designed to address the needs of the person suffering with an addiction or give you guidance as to where that help may be found. Information is the key, and the trained staff at AACA is here to assist. If you wish, you can also get more information on the website located at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
Quick Stakes, that's Q-U-I-K Stakes, are not just for surveyors. They are great for family and community gardens.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening. You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank
Delayed a little bit there. Well, you guys know, you guys tuned in. You're listening to Greg's List Live, the home of serious journalism. Greg and Victor coming at you. We're a week away from one of the most important elections of your life. I won't say it's the most important election, but it certainly is important. And we're also Halloween Eve. So
that's right. And on Halloween Eve, what an appropriate way to start out the show with a little technical difficulty, a little surprise.
A little trick or treat, a little gremlin, a little goblin was running around trying to harass me. The fake news media was trying to sabotage me here.
Fake radio.
So we, isn't it amazing? Doesn't Trump have an innate ability, Victor, to completely change the national discussion? I mean, a few days ago we're talking about this pipe bomber named Caesar Sayoc, a Native American super Trump fan who mailed some very shabbily created pipe bombs to a bunch of liberals and liberal supporting groups. They found him. He's got his white van plastered with Trump paraphernalia, right-wing stuff. There's pictures of him at Trump rallies before this. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole. It looks like he's a nut. He's a crazy guy who, unfortunately, is the media's dream because he's got all this right-wing propaganda. Big Trump fan, been pictured at a lot of Trump rallies, so he fits exactly what they're trying to paint Trump supporters as. But guess what? And I know you've got a lot to talk about on this topic. In fact, with your vacation next week, or that's a working vacation, it should be very exciting. But this morning, Trump floated a trial balloon of basically saying we're going to revisit the 14th Amendment and remove birthright citizenship for people that are not here legally. Now, I don't think he can do this. I do support revisiting some of this because I think we've been taken advantage of a little bit. The intent of this was to make sure that that slaves were given citizenship and that the children born to slaves after the Civil War were U.S. citizens. It was well intentioned and it still has merit, but we do have birth tourism going on in this country, and it's not just people from the southern border. We have people from all parts of the world, even Russians. There was a big article about 6 months ago about Russian birth tourism, where these white Russian ladies, and that's not a drink, these are physical ladies, coming here, giving birth just so their children would be U.S. citizens, so they'd be able to take advantage of all the goodies that U.S. citizens get to have, especially if you're under 18. You've got some strong opinions about this. I'm going to let you take it, and I want to hear what Senor Armendariz has to say.
Hey, thanks, Greg. Yeah, you mentioned in your opening, Trump has an innate ability to change the narrative, and when people continue on the left to say Trump is a dutz and Trump can't this and he's stupid, and they say all these things about him, it just makes me laugh, because if you think that, then go ahead, keep underestimating the guy, because that's what they've been doing since the night of November 5th or so, 2016.
Yeah, he's never going to be president, right? We've
Exactly.
seen that video montage over and over again, right?
So they've continued to underestimate him. So he does. He has a really, really good ability to play the media, and he's been doing it ever since he got elected. And what he did yesterday or over the weekend is he brought up the 14th Amendment, and he's throwing out there the birthright clause.
Right.
And he has some legitimate points, but I'll go ahead and go on record. I do not want to see an executive order. An executive order is never going to hold up. The Constitution is pretty clear. Now, Greg, you mentioned that if you read the Constitution, you read the 14th Amendment, it really was for the purpose of slave and slave's descendants.
Yep.
That clause. And it has really been, if you go back to the 60s, you really saw that's when the Democrats really started kicking up to revisit the immigration laws. And really
Yeah, it was adopted on July 9th, 1868, right after the Civil War.
Exactly.
So it was part of the Reconstruction amendments. It wasn't part of the initial Bill of Rights. Are we the only country that have that? I think Trump certainly misspoke when he said that. Canada has something similar. In fact, Central and South America a lot of the countries have something similar. But guess what? Nobody wants to live there. So, hence our problem, right? But and the other thing is, most of these other countries do not have the robust public assistance system, the free education, which is one of the top education systems in the world. The free health care. If you're under 18, you can get a lot of free stuff in this country. And unfortunately, I think people have been taking advantage of our generosity as a nation, and that's what's irritated people, and hence why we're trying to revisit it.
Right.
But
well, without a doubt. I mean,
let's go back to your point. I mean, you do not want to live by executive order.
No.
Just you're being honest and you're being intellectually consistent.
Yeah. What I want people to understand is and those of you that know me, I have a huge heart, and there's a place in me for people of Mexico and Honduras, and the plight of these people I've seen it close hand. I've seen it firsthand.
I get it. My wife is from Ecuador, so when we go down to visit, we see abject poverty. We see limited opportunity. But we have to weigh that, Victor, with can we take on all these other responsibilities when we're $21 trillion in debt and not even taking care of our own people right now?
What I say constantly is you can feel and have empathy for these people, but you have to stand also for the greatest country in the world that gave my father the ability to create a better life for him and my family and your wife and whose family was able to come here. This country affords that ability, but if we don't save our culture, if we don't save the American culture, the American way, then no one in the country is going to have a country to go to. If not the USA, if not for the freedom and light, the liberty here in this country, then where do the people of Honduras go, El Salvador go? They're not marching the other way. They're not marching to Panama. They're not marching to Costa Rica. They're marching here. There's a reason for that. And for us to keep the United States, the freedom, the hope, that American dream alive, and that's just not for here. We are the most generous people. We can do the most help. We can help these countries more than anybody else can. So I definitely don't want to abandon anyone, but I do not want to abandon America either. And
I read something interesting this morning, and it was that this is a horrible idea. We can't let a generation of people be stateless. And the point of it was that if you have a lot, we have 10 plus a million illegals here already, more pouring in, 7,000 more trying to come in through this caravan. If we take away birthright citizenship, these people are still going to have the babies. And at that point, that child would not be a citizen anywhere in the world. And that can cause a major problem because we can't, if they don't have any U.S. citizenship, nor do they have Mexican or Honduran or Guatemalan or wherever, Nigerian, Chinese, whatever citizenship, they essentially are without a home country. And that is a big problem that, again, folks, Donald Trump floats trial balloons and, however you think his mind works, we're not talking about Caesar Sayak anymore, are we?
Yeah, exactly.
So we're taking something that is a very important issue for Republicans who love the rule of law, who love legal immigration, and he said this is what we're going to talk about until the election. We're not going to talk about Caesar Sayak anymore. So with that in mind, it's a stroke of genius. I don't think Trump can do this. I don't think he really wants to do it without Congress. He's floating what we call a trial balloon, sending it out, and guess what? Guess what everybody's talking about?
Right, and that's his style. That's what I continually try and talk to the friends that I have that are they just can't grasp Trump, and they want to make all their decisions because they don't like Trump, even though everything else is going the right direction. The economy, the world affairs, everything is going in the right direction, and you want to not like the way things are going just because you don't like him. Well, you got to understand where he's coming from, and Greg, you're absolutely right. He knows how to change the narrative. Does Donald Trump say things the best all the time? No. But when you're a passionate person and you're out there and you're bombarded every day by 99% of the media who doesn't like you, in fact, I would say they hate you, you're up against that, so you're going to be emotional, you're going to be reactionary. And look, ladies and gentlemen, I know Donald Trump has money, but he's a blue-collar guy. He's a blue-collar millionaire. He's a New Yorker. You go up to New York and you tell somebody in their face that you hate them, and then you just list these reasons why, and you're accusing them, and half of them are false accusations. They're going to swing back at you. They're going to talk about, that's a New Yorker and that's Donald Trump. So you've got to get past that and look at the surface. You look at the policies. I think Donald Trump's smart enough to know that this isn't going to happen through executive order. I hope that he doesn't try it. He may try it. Obama ruled by executive order, and it bit him in the butt because all of those things can be retracted by the next president, and I think Donald Trump knows that. I would be okay with revisiting the 14th Amendment and maybe making clarification, because when you have a stated policy that if you could just make it to our shores, make it to our land, and pop out babies, that this is no longer just the land of the free, it becomes the land of the free stuff. Mm-hmm. And that is not what we stand for. So I am all for revisiting the 14th Amendment, but let's do it constitutionally. We can do it either by amendment process, or we can do it maybe through immigration law. The Democrats keep saying every day, we've got to have a comprehensive immigration, we've got to revisit. Well, we've got laws on the books. If we're going to change them, then we have to do it constitutionally. Right. And this part, the birthright, can be done in a comprehensive immigration.
And there is an economic argument against illegal immigration, and it is not racist. It's not based on not liking people because they look different than us. I mean, Victor, you're of Mexican descent here, so I married an Ecuadorian and went through the legal immigration process. So I would say that me and you have a hell of a lot of credibility on this very issue that a lot of people don't. And, a lot of people are tired of getting taken advantage of because of our generosity, because of our robust public services. And, frankly, every time we look at, this issue, we don't talk about it in economic terms. The cost, it's $12,000 to $13,000 per child to educate them per year. Do you want to pay for that? Where are all the liberals with their wallets out? They don't. They have the taxpayers' wallet out. They don't have their own wallets out. And the way they try to win the argument is by making us look like we hate children and women of other countries, which, unfortunately, Republicans need to learn quickly to debate this in economic terms, not personal terms.
Yes, there is a reason that every argument a liberal makes, and liberal, progressive, Democrat, whatever you want to call yourselves today, because I got news for you. Today's Democrat Party, they're all together, they're one. It's one big progressive liberal pile of stuff. And I say that jokingly because I've got some good Democrat friends. But right now, there are no middle-of-the-roaders. And the Democrats out there, if you are middle-of-the-roaders, you need to step back and look at where the direction your party's going. And there's a reason that everything they do right now isn't based in policy, it's based on emotion. Because when you can look at somebody, a conservative or a Republican or Washington establishment person, and get them to fall into the emotional trap, it's hard to win an argument that way.
It is.
It shouldn't be, because we should all be able to step back and pull and step back away from the emotions. But look what a liberal, Democrat, progressive does. If they start losing an argument, then suddenly you're heartless, you're racist, you're any other is they can think of, or you hate the climate, the economy, and everything else. Ladies and gentlemen, hang on right there. We're going to take a break, our first break. On the other side, we're going to get, I believe we've got a caller coming in. We're going to talk about elections. So hang on. Come right back. We'll be right back.
Get your pen and paper ready. If there's a move in your near future, I'm here to tell you that the folks I used and now recommend is Around Town Movers. Timothy and the guys recently moved me, and I am and was totally satisfied with a sometimes not so fun experience moving. Call Timothy at 770-378-4708 and make it a good move and a good experience. Around Town Movers for that local or cross-country move. Timothy, Around Town Movers, in my opinion, are the best. That's Around Town Movers. Call them.
Perhaps you are struggling to cope with the disease of addiction. If not, you probably know a family member or friend that needs help in battling the cravings and the personal and professional damage done by the effects of drugs or alcohol. Get a pen and paper and be ready to write down the following. These are the issues that the trained staff at the Atlanta Healing Center address and treat every day. Their doctors and counselors with over 40 years of practice in the field of addiction can treat the suffering individual in a thoughtful, compassionate, and experienced manner and guide him or her along the path to recovery. So call 770-696-9862 and speak to a knowledgeable staff member about how you or your loved one can be helped to enjoy a better and healthier life. More information is also available on the website at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Welcome back to Greg's List Live, the home of serious journalism, only on AmericasWebRadio.com. We were talking about Donald Trump's trial balloon that was just floated this morning. It certainly has changed the talking points rather quickly, it literally within about a 12-hour window. Let's change gears a little bit here. We do have a little thing called an election coming up. Midterm election during Trump's first term, so things are certainly in a little bit of upheaval, so to speak, especially for Republicans in the House. David Johnson from Strategic Vision, longtime caller, has been joining us for several years now, and I am eager to hear about your outlook for this. I've been reading, David, your posts about Florida really not looking good for Republicans, so let's start there.
It isn't. Right now, Florida looks like, because of the gubernatorial candidate Republicans nominated, Ron DeSantis, that he can drag the entire ticket down. And remember, Democrats have not controlled everything in Florida in 20 years. So this would be major.
What is it about DeSantis that's bringing this down? I mean, what's the cause there?
There's several causes. His campaign has been very inept. He's run basically a national campaign, advertising he stands with Donald Trump on everything. Yet in Florida, you have some major issues with erosion, red algae, overspill, and he cannot address any Florida-related issues whatsoever. He talks everything national. His campaign stumbled right after the primary with his monkey comment and some others.
Jesus. Right. Unforced errors, yeah we remember those.
Unenforced errors, and he does not come across likable, even one-on-one. I've heard from people in Florida, elected officials who are big Donald Trump supporters, that DeSantis has been a disaster. And why Trump endorsed him, they can never understand.
Well, what about Rick Scott? Is there any chance that he can pull DeSantis on his coattails?
Right now, it looks like DeSantis is actually dragging Rick Scott down as well. We've gone from where it was basically an even race to Scott slightly ahead to Bill Nelson now moving into the lead in that Senate race. And all of this is because of the excitement for the Democratic candidate Andrew Gillum among minorities and the fact that DeSantis is polling so low for a Republican.
Now, I'm reading here, though, that Republicans are looking pretty good early voting nationally and in Florida. Is Florida a lot different than Georgia, where Republicans usually struggle a little bit? Not this time around. It doesn't look like in early voting, but normally Republicans are a little bit behind, then we really kill it on Election Day. Is that different in Florida, David?
In Florida, usually you have a big Democratic surge. Right now, Republicans are ahead, but it's only by 3%, which is less than what it was when President Trump won Florida in 2018 very narrowly.
Is it because of maybe it's a lot of older voters that do absentee? Does that contribute to Florida's early voting?
A lot of absentee ballots cast by older voters or the so-called snowbird residents who make their official residence, though, in Florida.
What about the Panhandle? You know, they're still recovering.
They're still recovering, and there has been a worry that a lot of polling places are not going to be able to open. A lot of people are still without power, still without shelter in that area, and that could depress what's traditionally a very strong, very Republican area.
I was going to say, that does not help Republicans at all, because North Florida is basically pretty similar to South Georgia. As far as
it is, except for Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm.
And in a race as close as what we're seeing with the Bill Nelson-Rick Scott race, if Republican vote there is down even between 1% to 2%, that's enough to save Bill Nelson, a candidate who has been in office since Richard Nixon was president.
Yeah, well,
and whose only accomplishment that he talks about is riding in the space shuttle.
We had you on and that's what I hate circling back in a negative light, because we had you on a few weeks ago and things were looking really good for Rick Scott, and this was right when I think the monkey around or monkeyed up comment had came out, and
it was right before the primary with DeSantis and Adam Putnam.
Yep. And so, so let's say we lose Florida. I think we're still going to pick up some seats in the Senate, though.
We definitely are going to pick up some Senate seats. Indiana, Missouri, North Dakota all look like they're going.
West Virginia?
West Virginia, it's hard to say. Republican internal polls show Patrick Morrissey ahead. Trump's going back in to campaign against Manchin. Public polls show Manchin ahead.
Okay.
Manchin's a savvy politician who West Virginians like, even though he's got the D next to his name.
Yeah.
The question is, though, a lot of Democrats are angry at him, and even in his primary, he had a protest vote against a candidate who didn't even fund herself, who got 30% of the vote. Will those Democrats not vote for him because he voted for Justice Kavanaugh?
Yeah, I was about to say, for my purposes, Joe Manchin is just fine. I mean, he was the cover for Trump. He did get bipartisan support for Kavanaugh, and to me, that's probably the most important vote that Manchin is going to cast in the next couple years, at least. So,
I agree, but don't forget, he also waited until to see how Susan Collins was voting.
Yeah, well, and when Donald Trump Jr. came out and said, "Oh, how brave you!" I mean, I think it's pretty damn brave of Manchin to have bucked the Democrat Party, though. I'm going to give him a lot of credit. Whether or not he
needed to, because if he didn't, we'd be writing him off right now.
Probably, but still, I think for him to face the utter rage and histrionics of his own party, I still give that man a round of applause.
To me, he did it strictly for his political.
The Democratic seat, though, I'm looking at is Montana. Donald Trump despises John Tester. Tester, remember, is the one who torpedoed the nomination of Ronnie Johnson to be the new VA secretary.
Yeah.
This poll was never really on anyone's radar, but it's very close. The public polls show basically a 3-point lead for Tester. Trump has gone in numerous times, and he's going in again this coming weekend to campaign against Tester. This seat, if it tips Republican, would be a major upset, and I don't think the president would be going back in unless they think there's a good chance it can tip.
Oh, I think there's a good chance there. I also think, now, you may laugh, but tell me what you think about New Jersey. Is it possible that if let's say there's a red Senate wave, is it possible New Jersey gets caught up in it?
It's possible. It's unlikely at this point, because even with the polling that we've seen that has been the most favorable to the Republican, it's still been about 5 to 7 points at this point.
What about?
I think the Democratic taint, the dislike for Donald Trump will be enough to help Menendez. Now, it's been funny, though, about this race is the money that Chuck Schumer got from Bob Menendez's friend who was indicted and convicted.
Right.
The $7 million Schumer has all put back into that New Jersey Senate race by running TV ads and donating to the Menendez campaign.
And that should be pointed out every day, and that's why I think that it's way closer than it probably anyone thought it would be, but you're probably right. But what about Michigan?
But the good thing is right now is taking money away from Democrats in Arizona, Montana, other states that Democrats wanted to play in.
What about John James in Michigan?
That one, he's closed the gap some. It's just hard to see him getting over the finish line. And a lot of that is because, again, very much like in Florida, we have a weak Republican candidate for governor who is dragging down the ticket.
Oh, that's too bad. He's a great guy. I think he's a great candidate.
He is, and I think he's one that we're definitely going to see again in the future. This was just really, if the dynamics in the gubernatorial campaign had been stronger, it might have got him over the finish line. As of now, it's going to be closer than it was, but it's not going to be enough to get him over the finish line.
Wow. It would be really interesting. I mean, what do you think there's a chance out that it could actually be a split decision, that, say, Florida, say they go for Rick Scott, but they don't go for DeSantis? Is that?
Oh, it's very possible. We've seen that in some of the polling where you have Andrew Gillum voters for governor and then for Rick Scott for U.S. Senate.
Yeah, I mean, Rick Scott has had a pretty good track record as governor. He certainly has a lot of money, and I think his response to Hurricane Michael has been, most Floridians are quite happy. I've got some friends down in Panama City that have said, yeah, we're getting the power back on, we're seeing services coming back, and there's no, oh my God, this is his Katrina, or there's no moment like that, there's no controversy or anything. So that, and, I mean, if you think about it, he's getting a hell of a lot of free airtime. So.
He is. He's been an outstanding governor. And look, if Adam Putnam were the Republican nominee, I even have Democratic colleagues down there who say that both the governor's race and the Senate race would be off the radar, all in the Republican camp at this point.
Wow. So
it shows that even in this age of polarization, straight party voting, candidates still matter.
Yeah, that's how you have a Republican in Maryland, right? Governor Hogan. He's a Republican.
He's going to cruise the re-election.
Yeah, he's going to beat Jealous by 20 to 30 points. New Hampshire. No, I saw Oregon may be electing a Republican governor. So we're seeing some interesting.
Well, in Connecticut, I mean, Ned Lamont, who was the anti-war candidate who unseated Joe Lieberman back in that Democratic primary when Lieberman finally ran as an independent. He's in a fight for that governorship. He's only ahead of the Republican by 3 points.
Yeah, so we're going to have to take our midpoint break here. I want to switch to some bad news, potentially, for the Republicans in the House of Representatives, and get your reaction, David, to what, I think Trump's trial balloon, which is I'm going to keep calling it that. I don't think it's very serious because, frankly, it's not going to get, I don't think it'll even get unanimous Republican support to do this because of its anti-constitutional tone, but I want to get your feedback on that and the outlook for some of the House races that may be a little bit contentious. I think we're probably safe in the 6th and the 7th here in Georgia, but if you have different information, let me know. When we'll see you guys on the other side of the break here listening to Greg's List.
Your auto love and investment demands the best, and for 45 years, Passport Transport has been meeting those demands. From manufacturers to the one-car collectors and all other facets of the auto industry and antique auto hobby. The first and the finest with unequaled service and peace of mind. Passport Transport, your auto transportation company. Contact PassportTransport.com with your need today. Passport Transport.
Cook Immigration Partners is your passport through the immigration maze. Whether it's help with E-Verify in your business, or help in how to document a new employee under the new I-9 rules, or if you marry a foreign national, Cook Immigration Partners is your best choice for a legal advocate. Call us today at 866-286-6200. That's 866-286-6200, or visit us on the web at www.immigration.net.
Whether cruising the Strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the americasbroadcastnetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And welcome back to Greg's List Live, the home of serious journalism, only on americaswebradio.com. It's election season, the end of election season, the final 7 days. How much fun are we having? David Johnson from Strategic Vision is with us, a nationally renowned PR and polling firm. So, David, we talked about the Senate, some obviously great pickup opportunities for Republicans there. Should be a pretty good night for us if we can get Florida in that win column and maybe New Jersey, as you were talking about, Victor. It would be a real nice night. But let's talk about something that is scary as hell to me, and that's the possibility of Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi coming back like Jason or Freddy.
That is a horrible picture.
Dude, I hate to ruin any lunch you may have had or any early dinner plans you might have. But David, are we looking at a potential Nancy Pelosi Speaker of the House coming next year?
We definitely are. Unless some of the Democrats decide that they want another leader who would be even more extreme than Nancy Pelosi, believe it or not.
So
As of now, it looks like Republicans are going to lose between 25 to 35 House seats.
Okay. Do we need
not the blue tsunami that they were talking about, but still enough to give them the
majority. To tip the majority over. So, do we need to worry about Karen Handel or Rob Woodall?
I think the Democrats seem to think for some reason the 6 is in play. I don't think it is, but we're hearing some chatter that their polling is showing that it is. And a lot of that is because of this New York Times poll that came out that showed McBath could defeat Handel. I think that's just a lot of hype.
Yeah, especially when you look at McBath and her this potential tax fraud issue that she's been having. It's like the Democrats just can't seem to find anybody that actually lives in the 6th district. It doesn't surprise me, but that story has not gotten enough attention that they were claiming the homestead exemption in Tennessee and Georgia, and they just got booted off of the homestead exemption here. This is tax fraud, friends. Okay, it's nothing short of that, and it looks like they're guilty of it. I wish the AJC would show off its investigative reporting skills a little more and point this out, because if you have somebody that's been defrauding U.S. taxpayer or Georgia taxpayers already, imagine what she's going to do if she somehow wins and goes to Congress. So you're thinking Rob Woodall versus Carolyn Bordeaux. Both Bordeaux and McBath I've seen some commercials on. It's nothing like the Ossoff impact. The polling I've seen on both of those show Karen up by about 4 points, Woodall up by about 6 points. So I haven't seen this New York Times.
The 7th, if you look, Rob's not even advertising on TV at this point. His team feels confident. He's got a strong record. And yes, although Michael Bloomberg did just parachute $1 million in to help Carolyn Bordeaux, so stranger things have happened, but it's hard to see that unless we see a giant surge for Stacey Abrams among minorities and first-time voters. Then something could change.
Yeah.
We're not seeing that currently.
Have you seen this? So the early voting numbers, I've been monitoring it. We've got some of our top data people on the GOP. Identified Republicans are early voting at a much higher level than identified Democrats. Now, there's also a large swath of African Americans. We have to assume that 85 to 95% of those are probably voting for Stacey Abrams, are also in the mix. And we do have about 270,000 unidentified voters. These are people that don't vote in primaries, but there's really no reason to think that that's going to break heavily to Democrats. In fact, a lot of the rural Trump counties are way up in early voting. David, what's been your perception of the early voting? Have you been taking a look at it every day or so?
I have, and what's been amazing here, just as in Florida and other states, Republicans are doing far better in early voting than they usually do.
I mean, that's got to be, and there's the argument that you're cannibalizing Election Day vote, but the other argument is you're banking these votes. You never know. Tuesday could be a hellhole as far as weather goes. You just never know. And that second Tuesday, or second Tuesday in November.
But it also could possibly be showing the energy level that has kicked up for Republicans since Kavanaugh. So maybe
it could be, and we could be looking at what we saw in 2016, where Republicans underperformed in race after race, yet on election night overperformed.
Yeah, it's the first Tuesday following the first Monday. Sorry about that. I knew I had it something off there, but at any rate, that's always before November 10th. Let's just say that.
No one's been talking about a red wave. They've been talking about a blue wave, a blue tsunami. They talk about a blue drip, a blue this, a blue that. But I think we're ignoring the possibility. Well, not everybody, but there is the possibility that the excitement is up, and I think Kavanaugh did a lot to drive that. So, David, what is the chance, I guess, in your opinion, that there is somewhat of a wave that of a red aspect where the excitement level is hitting? We're hitting a stride right now with early voting. Tuesday's a huge turnout, and then yes, we gain in the Senate.
Yeah, I mean, we are way ahead in early voting. I saw a CBS, and this is CBS, right? They're not exactly a bastion of conservative news, and it's showing Republican early voting is way outpacing Democrats in some of these states. And I don't know, and in Georgia, Republicans usually dominate Election Day. I don't see any reason why that won't happen. I haven't voted. My wife hasn't.
There's something else to look at, which no one seems to mention, especially in the national media, but it's something that's been overlooked. And it's not even the early voting, but it's what we're seeing overseas in Europe. And remember, this goes back to Ronald Reagan even. What happens in Europe, America copies. And what we're seeing in Europe across the board is your national right-wing parties are scoring triumphs and have this year. I mean, in Hungary, the Hungarian Prime Minister got 75%, even though polls showed it was a neck-to-neck race. Now, if American politics continues to copy European politics, which has been the norm since Ronald Reagan, that means that Republicans will do far better on election night than anyone's thinking.
Well, remember, to me, the Trump effect. You've got voters out there that will not admit that they're going to vote Republican or vote Trump or be a Trump voter, but when they go into the poll, they are.
Exactly, and I mean, if you look at his rallies compared to the stars that the Democrats are throwing, he's definitely outperforming them and motivating his base. Although he does motivate people who hate him as well.
Yeah, he's pretty polarizing, and I mean, he is coming to Macon on Saturday. I think everybody figures that the Georgia gubernatorial race is going to be close. I do think Kemp is going to win without a runoff. Ted Metz is polling the Libertarian at about 2% right now. And no, I haven't seen one legitimate poll that has either Abrams or Kemp over 50%. But again, these polls, they have 4 to 5% margins of error, and it's very difficult to see what late breaking people are. They've all showed about 3 to 5% of people undecided. My biggest concern right now is it looks like the female vote is heavily outpacing the male vote, and if you look at the numbers, that's not real good for Republicans, right, David?
No, it isn't. We're seeing the same in Florida. We're seeing the same in Arizona. We're seeing the same in Tennessee as well.
I don't want to speculate on why that is. I personally do not have 3 hours to wait in line during the week. No candidate on the ballot, no offense to anybody on the ballot, is worth a 3-hour wait. I go on election day because it's about a 10-minute wait, and I can walk there. And it's a little thing called tradition at my house. Now, I get it. Not everybody can do that. Some people want to early vote. For me, God knows if something happened to me, I didn't make it to the polls, and I wouldn't be able to vote Tuesday, but I probably wouldn't care that much if I was dead, just to be honest with you.
Well, only if you're a Democratic voter, because they're dead vote. They are dead vote.
Greg, and I have been getting some Stacey Abrams mailers. There has been a Democrat that's lived at my house previously named Sabrina Mosley.
What you don't know is if you're dead, you vote twice.
You know what I think is going to happen, though. I do think some of these Democrats that have early voted, I bet you they try to vote again on Tuesday. It wouldn't surprise me just for them to gum up the works too, where if a bunch of people go up on election day and there's like a 3-hour line and it's full of people that have already voted. No, this is me just being kind of an ass and speculating, but it would not surprise me. They are so desperate for power, and they have such a vapid argument for why they should have it, but they really, really want to win, and I think they'll do anything to do it.
They've already shown they'll do anything, and hey, I've said it before, some of Hillary Clinton's most attended campaign speeches was at a cemetery. So, I mean, nothing is beneath them.
Yeah. David,
the other thing we don't know, too, the other dynamic no one's talking about is we don't know what will be dominating the news come Election Day.
Well,
look, we're already off this mail bomber talking about, of course, this horrendous tragedy in Pittsburgh, and now that's being overshadowed by Trump's trial balloon today.
Yeah, so what do you think about that? Is that a stroke of genius? I am leaning towards stroke of genius to get off.
It is, because it mobilizes his base, and it gets us talking back on the issues that favor Republicans.
The bomber, the Native American Caesar Sayoc felon bomber, that does not help Republicans at all.
He's not Native American. He's Filipino and Italian.
Are you sure? Oh, okay, you know what? For some reason, I thought he was part of the Seminole tribe.
He claims to be, but he's not.
He's like Elizabeth Warren, then. He's 1,024th Native American. Got it. Okay.
He's another Elizabeth Warren.
No, I understand. Like Caesar Sayoc. Doesn't it sound like a name of a Star Wars character, though?
It does.
Or maybe like
it really does.
Or an appetizer you get at a French restaurant. I'll have the Caesar Sayoc.
You took a page from the Warren playbook. What can you say?
So, but David, I thought, I woke up this morning to this news, and whether or not it can actually be done, or whether or not it's a real winning issue for Republicans at the end of the day. For right now, it changes the talking points in favor of Republicans.
It does, and it's an issue that the Republican base will rally around, and it gives them another reason to be motivated to go out and vote.
Yeah.
So, David, I have a question. One other thing that I'm not hearing a lot about in the media, and you tell me if you think this will even be a factor. There are a couple of, I think there's 3 or so organizations, the Walk Away movement, and then there's 2 others that are doing the same thing, and these are Democrat voters of the past who are walking away from the Democrat Party. Is that, or will that be a factor in your opinion?
It'll be a factor in some of the states like West Virginia, Indiana. Overall, nationally, it's not going to be a tremendous factor.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched, they had a parade and a rally over the weekend in D.C. I had a few friends that went up to it. In fact, I didn't try to get them on the show sometime to tell me about it, but it looked pretty well attended. I'm not sure how many people were actual Republicans their whole lives and were just going there for the, to support, or how many there were actual people that are regretting aligning themselves with socialism and the party of hate that the modern-day Democrat Party has turned into. And I think this is something, David, that we need to be working on for a long time. This should not be a one-hit wonder. We need to be working on turning out African Americans for Republicans. And actually, Trump hosted 400 black conservatives over the weekend as well. That story got more news coverage than the Walk Away campaign. Largely ignored by the media because it doesn't fit their narrative, right, Dave?
It doesn't fit their narrative, and they're worried, too, that Trump's going to, again, outperform among African Americans come 2020.
Yeah, if he even peeled off an extra 3 or 4%, which I think is very attainable. That really moves the needle, especially in southern states, right?
The Democrats can't afford that if that happens.
Well, that was another question I had, David. There, I've seen polls anywhere from 20, 25 to 29 or so percent black favorability towards Trump. If that ever happened, that would be devastating for the Democrats. So, in your opinion, is that going to have an effect on the midterms, or are we just talking 2020?
I don't think it's going to actually translate into actual votes. And the reason I'm saying this is if you go back and look at some historic polls, Nixon, when he was president, Ronald Reagan, when he was president, actually had those favorability numbers as well because of the economy, because of events in foreign affairs, yet it never translated into African Americans casting votes for them or Republicans.
But maybe, and that's the difference with Trump, is just because he had such a national celebrity. Let's go ahead and take our final break, David. We'll wrap up with you if you can hang out with us for a couple more minutes.
Sure.
We'll see you on the other side of the break here listening to Greg's List.
Perhaps you are struggling to cope with the disease of addiction. If not, you probably know a family member or friend that needs help in battling the cravings and the personal and professional damage done by the effects of drugs or alcohol. Get a pen and paper and be ready to write down the following. These are the issues that the trained staff at the Atlanta Healing Center address and treat every day. Their doctors and counselors with over 40 years of practice in the field of addiction can treat the suffering individual in a thoughtful, compassionate, and experienced manner and guide him or her along the path to recovery. So call 770-696-9862 and speak to a knowledgeable staff member about how you or your loved one can be helped to enjoy a better and healthier life. More information is also available on the website at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
Whether cruising the Strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
Get your pen and paper ready. If there's a move in your near future, I'm here to tell you that the folks I used and now recommend is Around Town Movers. Timothy and the guys recently moved me, and I am and was totally satisfied with a sometimes not so fun experience moving. Call Timothy at 770-378-4708 and make it a good move and a good experience. Around Town Movers for that local or cross-country move. Timothy, Around Town Movers, in my opinion, are the best. That's Around Town Movers. Call them.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And welcome back to Greg's List Live, the home of serious journalism. Here with Victor Armendariz, myself, and David Johnson from Strategic Vision. We're giving the final election recap. I always enjoy having you on, David. You've got a national look at things, and, that's what, obviously...
I actually do.
You do?
I think Metz is going to screw everything up that we're going to go into overtime.
And if historically runoffs favor Republicans, although I don't think we have that dynamic this time. I think certainly the black community with a one-on-one runoff. Now the good news is this runoff, Victor, it's only going to be 30 days. I think it's December 4th or something, like maybe even less than 30 days. So that's good. It'll ruin Thanksgiving.
It definitely will.
It won't ruin Christmas. And I mean, if that happens, we are going to see the biggest fraudulent absentee ballot campaign in the history of the country, I'd imagine. The Democrats have already been ordering absentee ballots for non-existent people. They've been claiming voter suppression when they can't even fill out a form right or get Social Security numbers correct or have a correct address. So I can only...
Georgia will be ground zero for the Democratic Party.
And I think the Republican, it'll be a proxy war, very similar to the Ossoff versus Handel. I think Kemp would have unlimited resources. We would, we would get our people back, I'm sure, to the polls, but, the Democrats would be just as energized to have this chance to pick off the gubernatorial.
If not more so, because if they carried the House.
Oh, absolutely. So then they'd have some momentum going. Well, although if we pick up several Senate seats, I think I'd rather have the Senate than the House.
I would too, especially when you consider
judicial
Breyer and Ginsburg And also there's rumors that Clarence Thomas might step down to let Trump appoint a younger conservative.
Yeah, I mean, so if I have to pick which one I want, luckily the dynamics this election cycle, there were so many Senate seats that the Democrats had to protect. And maybe in a couple years it'll be a similar dynamic. Obviously, the House elects every 2 years, so any Democrat that barely wins this time around, we'll have to see how popular Trump is as an incumbent president. If he is, I don't think he's going to be indicted. Mueller, some of the stuff I've been reading about his investigation says it's going nowhere. And with that being the case, Democrats may just come in and look like really petulant folks with Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House, and that could actually help Republicans in a couple years.
Well, what's interesting more than anything with the House as well is a lot of these Republicans who are running in various districts, they're doing so running as conservative. I mean, these Democrats who are running as so-called conservative or moderate Democrats. And we know the track record and how that shows up. They get elected that way, they govern as a liberal, and the next cycle they get voted out.
Well, David, I talked about that earlier today. If you don't think the Democrat Party is united and they're voting as progressive liberal, then you're kidding yourself. I don't care how conservative they campaign, because that's what they're doing. You look at what Haskell, I think it's Haskell, what she's doing now.
Majority vote for granted as well, and it's not showing up for her in Missouri.
Wow. But my point is they will tell you constantly that they're middle to the road, bipartisan, this, that, and the other, but they vote liberal with Schumer 100% of the time. And
they do, and Claire McCaskill has been one of the most liberal senators, despite claiming that she supports the president.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah, she supports him on resolutions like naming a post office this or honoring the Girl Scouts.
Right.
Yeah, the feel good stuff, but that could be an interesting thing though, where you get some of these conservative Democrats that are able to win, like the guys in Pennsylvania and Michigan. I think they've picked up a few where they ran as people that actually like guns and appreciate the Constitution. Would they get in there and be controlled by the Pelosi power machine if they don't have the presidency and they don't have the Senate? They may not have to kiss the ring quite as much, because the threat isn't there that they'll primary you, because the Democrats would still not have a whole lot of leverage.
They'll be primaried, but more than anything, they'll be cut off of the money when they're up for re-election.
That'll be the threat that they hold over them. But Trump